It took far too long, but it's done. This is Mass Effect 3. Mass Effect 3 has been and always will be my favorite game of all time. I've played better games, but apart from maybe Cyberpunk, nothing has ever left an imprint on my life quite the way this misguided thing has. Rushed out the door by EA for reasons that no one has ever understood, Mass Effect 3 seemed to be doomed from the start. It had to become the pinnacle of one of the most beloved trilogies in gaming history, and for many it was viewed as nothing but a disappointment, breaking 3 games worth of choices down into a color choice between red, green, and blue. But just like I saw the magic of Cyberpunk the day it launched, I was awestruck at the magic that was the end of the series I loved so much. I made the argument that while the game certainly had shortcomings, it was just as good, if not better, than the earlier entries. I'm sure I'm blinded by my passion for the game, and I know the game has flaws, but I don't know. There's moments like fighting to cure the Genophage, arguing about the realities of what makes a person alive, and dealing with the reality that you can't have it all along the way. That's just damn fine, in my opinion. We finally saw truly great gameplay for the first time in the series, creating something that I'd actually look forward to playing. While it's true that the depth of dialogue was cut back in this game due to time constraints, I actually appreciate the streamlined conversation system still allowing for you to get input from your teammates often, but reserving conversations for moments that truly need it. I'm not in love with planet scanning fetch quests, but it's really nowhere near necessary, so it doesn't bother me. I do them because I want to, and that's great. We're going to talk about all of Mass Effect 3 today, both the good and the bad, but please understand that even when giving my utmost to expose the problems in this game, I love it too much not to be a little biased. I fully understand you might have criticisms of me, and I'm willing to respect them in the comments, polite or not. But my goal here today is to be fair, while at the same time convincing you to see the game from my point of view, so maybe you can love it too. For the record, I won't be talking about Andromeda after this video unless this video gets like some crazy amount of traction, which I don't expect to happen. I have a genuine hatred for that pile of ass and have no incentive to play through it. I don't care if they put Mass Effect on the box. That being said, I hope you enjoy coming along this ride with me, as I really do love this game and hope you find some joy in it. I'm Purple, so let's get to it. Gameplay is never first and foremost in a story-driven RPG, and that was always pretty clear in Mass Effect. They didn't want it to be bad, but it was never the goal to make the best playing game on the market, meaning that it took a while to get it right. The first game felt like gunfire and power usage was simply mailing stat checks and receiving a reply via lighting lanterns, one if by tech, two if biotic. The Mako had a charm to it, but planet exploration was dreadfully boring, and the inability to do side quests after the main story made it extremely frustrating. The second game reduced the freedom and in a lot of ways increased the frustration. Coming off the first game, the gunplay feels great, being incredibly heavy and showing real impact on the battlefield, but on higher difficulties the enemies became such bullet sponges that you have to rely heavily on power usage to get through fights without running out of ammo. But that doesn't make you look for a better tactical approach, it just slows combat to a halt while you sit there and wait for your powers to recharge. Ammo conservation can be fun, but not in a game like this. I want to be challenged by enemies, not inconvenienced. In Mass Effect 3, the combat has been elevated to the level it was always meant to be at. I'll admit that on a controller, it falls down a bit, but man, on a mouse and keyboard, this game comes to life in ways you can't even imagine. The sheer variety of weapons and abilities in this game means that there's a playstyle to suit anybody. The biggest differences for me were the introduction of the weight system and the expansion of the combo detonations in the game. To start with now, you have the ability to carry any weapon with any class, with all classes but the soldier being limited to 2. This means that you aren't, for instance, limited to short-range weapons on a Vanguard class and could have a shotgun sniper rifle combo if you wanted. That really allows people who felt constricted to a class due to weapon selections to really get a chance to explore, and for me, who has fallen in love with the soldier class, to become something entirely new. You see, the less weight you carry, the faster your powers will recharge, so by using a soldier class with 2 guns, you can get up to 200% speed boost to your power recharge. This means that with the biotic bonus ability, ammo powers, and your concussive shot, you can tear across the battlefield using your abilities in tandem with your team to become a force of nature. But it's not easy on Insanity. You really will become a glass cannon, and you can die as fast as you can kill if you're not careful. I may love the soldier class, but truth be told, all the classes have a place. I prefer to experiment more in multiplayer than in the main campaign, but either way. The Vanguard brings brutality to the battlefield, letting you really get into the thick of it. Adepts are your pure biotics, specializing at bending the battlefield to their whim with a thought. Engineers can find a way past any defense. Sentinels blend the two, bringing the best mix of both tech and biotic attacks. And infiltrators allow you to hit and run, specializing in finding gaps in the enemy's defense. Combine all these awesome powers with the new weapon customization system, and you can truly fight in a unique way for the first time in the series. Then we even have new abilities like the Omniblade, allowing for heavy melee that you'll basically never use, and the ability to pull an enemy out from behind cover, which when planned feels awesome. The threat alone forces enemies to move back, and I just love that little bit of an interaction, allowing you to push forward more aggressively and have the enemies respond to it. Speaking of which, for the first time in the series, the different enemies actually feel different and require a varied approach. The faction we face most often will be the Reapers, who have a very satisfying lineup, starting with the Husks that are a true fodder enemy that can become deadly if you don't give them the attention they deserve, especially now that they can jump on you, dragging Shepard and his teammates out of cover, exposing you to enemy fire. Above these are Cannibals, not too bad on the face of it, but when they get buffs from either Marauders or by consuming corpses, they can be surprisingly hard to bring down in large groups. Pair this with them having regular grenade use, and they serve as formidable frontline troops. Above them are the Marauders I just mentioned, who act like battlefield leaders for the Reapers, sergeants, lieutenants, whatever you want to call them. They buff troops with extra health, along with being the only shielded enemies the Reapers have, which actually matters in this game, unlike those before. They also roll like crazy sometimes, making it hard to pin them down with powers, which can be frustrating and force you to take a more measured approach. Then they have Brutes, which actually serve as I think the easiest of them to handle, being big armor-wearing monstrosities which charge you relentlessly. But as cool as it is to chip away at their armor, it's likely you won't even notice it as a feature because they're very easy to dispatch. The more problematic of the heavy troops come in the form of Rachni modified with heavy cannons. They can absolutely pummel you if you mistime your attack, and the little workers they drop are one of those problems that's more than you give it credit for. Getting caught in the open against the Rachni is a death sentence, and I love that. Last but certainly not least is the Banshees, with a war cry that makes even veterans of the series shiver. They're Asari who have been turned into nightmares, moving unflinchingly across the battlefield, sending out brutal biotic attacks while constantly chasing you down, with capture meaning imminent death. Seeing the races of the galaxy being represented in the Reaper ranks adds an extra bit of depth to them that I really appreciate. With Asari, Turians, Batarians, Rachni, and even humans coming for you, it can really drag you into the universe and increase your immersion. There's this sense that the vast majority of them are simply meant to overwhelm you with force of numbers, and when you consider that them dying also serves the Reaper's purposes, it can feel more dramatic as they push towards you relentlessly. They fit the Reapers perfectly, and I deeply appreciate that. Thank God there's no Krogan troops. Cerberus is bringing their own troops to bear, but in a different way. Their mainline troops are just, well, troops. Armed with solid rifles and grenades, they won't push you with the aggression of Reaper troops, but would rather try to force you out of cover and put you down from behind theirs. They feel smarter than the Reapers you're used to fighting. The Centurions don't serve as an important role as Marauders, feeling more like troopers with a little better gear and a stun baton. They're probably the weakest in their role in the game. Then we have the snipers in the form of Nemesis. They're glass cannons to be sure, but cannons nonetheless, being able to rip you apart if you let them get a shot off. It's best to press them early and often, keeping them moving. Speaking of moving, the Phantoms are brutal opponents, constantly advancing, trying to get in range to use their sword, but having a hand cannon that will tear you to pieces, encouraging you to stay in cover while they advance. It's a real catch-22. You should really be focusing your team on them right away to keep them from getting too close.
Please stop. I can't let you get close. Can you hear my... Stop.
Next up is Engineers. No real problem on their own, sporting a pistol and weak shield, but they all carry turrets which on high difficulties are what I assume was an attempt to instill the terror of hearing a German buzzsaw sound off. Those things will shred you in seconds and force you to move with tact. Guardians are shield-bearing enemies that are a bit more annoying to fight if you have to shoot through the slot in their shield, and laughable if you have biotics available. Last up, in certain situations, they will drop an Atlas, which is essentially a manned heavy mech, and if I'm being honest, a pretty nominal threat, all things considered. Technically, you can crack the glass and hijack them, but it's not something you're likely to do, and they're not incredibly fun to operate. Reapers and Cerberus will make up probably 70% of the fights you'll have in the game, but there's also a notable amount of time spent finding the Geth in one of the arcs. They have ordinary troops which aren't too bad to deal with, but with the regular troops will come the rocket troopers as well, which become a serious problem in groups, not letting you maneuver. Flamethrowers are exactly what you'd think, deadly up close and laughable on their way to you. The only tricky one of the bunch is the Geth Stalkers. They aren't too hard for you to see when you're looking for them, but their cloaks work extremely well when there's too much going on to notice them coming, allowing them to get in close with their powerful shotguns. Then there's the tanks in the form of Geth Primes, which will act as a check of your potential damage output, moving slowly but being hard to take down. Last up, we have Cat 6, but they're reserved for the Citadel DLC, so we're going to leave them alone for now. It's weird to actually have this much to say about the gameplay in a Mass Effect game, but man is it good. The combat roll, which I forgot to mention, encourages you to take chances, allowing you high risk, high reward movement that can really elevate you in combat against some enemies. Banshees come to mind. The ability to flow freely through the battlefield is something the series was missing up until now, going from a photocopy of a shooter to a cover shooter with a bit of flair, and now reaching its final evolution as something truly special. As we said though, the gameplay was never the core focus of Mass Effect, its story was. In the first entry, we were in a race against time to stop an enemy only we few believed in. The second game became about building a team and deepening our connection to the universe, making everything seem far more vast. But here in our finale, we would come to understand the universe on a whole new scale. Saving the world was never enough for Mass Effect. It was always about saving the galaxy, but now it's time. As the Normandy crew will face down the apocalypse in an attempt to save life itself. The game opens with the first signs of the Reaper invasion, and so they do the only thing they can. Call on Shepard and hope that either he's wrong, or that he can help. We meet James Vega, a soldier on Earth who's apparently gotten to know Shepard while he's been in prison awaiting trial over his actions during the Arrival DLC. For those who missed the last video, he slammed an asteroid into a mass relay and wiped out a system of Batarians in an attempt to slow down the Reaper's advance. While walking to the meeting with Admiral Anderson, we also bump into Cade Alenko, who's now a major, which I have to say outranking your commanding officer is a bit odd. Actually, I just read a whole thread about this out of curiosity. I guess the answer is he kind of outranks him. It's weird. I don't know. I guess I'll ask my brother, but he's in the Army. This is the Navy. I don't know. He didn't really help. Anyway, we're called into a committee where they're like, hey, Commander, remember those Reapers you warned us about and we laughed about and called you crazy? They may be here. What do we do about it? And the only real answer we can give is try not to die, I guess. Advice they would not take to heart when the Reapers pulled up literally minutes later. Anderson will pick us up and call us to the Normandy as we make our way towards escape. It's the general tutorial learning how to use weapons and powers like the new Omniblade. The notable moment here is that if you look back to the kid Shepard saw playing earlier in the yard, we will see him again as he will appear in events scared, but not willing to take our help, running away when Shepard is distracted by Admiral Anderson. Finding a more powerful radio, Anderson puts out a call to the Normandy who respond, and we're left to defend our position until they arrive. This scene works spectacularly the first time you play it, as the cannibals will bear down on you seemingly endlessly until you finally run out of ammo, which is when the ship will come in to save you at the last minute. But I'll admit, it loses a bit of its luster when you realize you can trigger their arrival by simply firing into the ground. Oh well, I like it either way. Climb aboard the Normandy, but Anderson will refuse to leave, saying that someone has to lead the resistance here on Earth, telling Shepard that he must go and get the help we need here. Shepard doesn't want to leave him, but isn't one to deny an order. This leads us to an opening I dare say is even more powerful than the beginning of Mass Effect 2. Before we get out of the system, Admiral Hackett will reach out to us with an urgent request to head to the Mars archives to recover the information Liara was working on when the Reapers hit us. When we arrive, there's a sandstorm coming in that's looking pretty problematic, but worse, it turns out Cerberus is here assaulting the base. It's a bit of an odd move, but I guess they wanted to establish them as evil nice and early. We get inside and get this weird, unnecessary drama with the Vermeer survivor being like, "How can I trust you that you're not working with Cerberus anymore?" Like, bitch, shut the fuck up. I've saved the galaxy twice now. Either believe me or don't. Clearly, I have no need of your services. We then run into an old friend who isn't nearly as annoying in Liara, who's been one downright savage when we find her. Shepard, for some reason, sends James back to the shuttle because the storm or something so that Liara can come with us. She also explains what we're here for. It turns out while researching here, she found a poorly lampshaded MacGuffin in the form of plans for a Prothean superweapon she believes can help defeat the Reapers. It's pretty clear they just needed this to be part of the plot and politely ask that you don't ask too many questions about it. For better or for worse, it's what I've got. We move forward towards the center of the facility where the data is located as we piece together what happened here. Seems like this new doctor, Miss Eva Corey, was the one responsible for Cerberus getting inside, taking out security, and compromising their systems from within. After fighting to the archives, we'll start looking for the data and be confronted by someone we used to know. We can have an ideological conversation, but really he's just stalling while the doctor steals the data, and the team will have to run her down. Don't sweat trying to catch her, it's programmed so that you never can, which is done so that James can ram her shuttle out of the sky with ours, and so that Kaidan can get caught by what turns out to actually be a mech working for Cerberus. Shepard is uncharacteristically slow allowing this to happen before actually firing upon the mech when its attention shifts to us. This will leave Kaidan pretty banged up and in need of emergency medical attention. Thankfully, we were heading for the Citadel anyway. He's rushed to the Huerta Memorial Hospital on arrival, and we run into Captain Bailey who lets us know the Council is ready to see us, but there's time to see Kaidan first if we want to. You can run into two doctors we know well on our way in. Dr. Chakwas from the Normandy, who we can recruit right on the spot, and Dr. Michelle from the first game. You can actually recruit either one of them for the ship, but I mean, come on, what kind of choice is that? Anyway, stop in to see the Vermeer survivor with a scene that just feels, I don't know, off? I can't quite put my finger on why I don't like it, maybe because I hate Ashley and just don't care about Kaidan, but it's just not the strongest moment in the series. Probably just because we only really knew them in the first game, and neither have been super awesome to Shepard since then. Head up to the Presidium where the Council is already in session. We explain that the Earth has been hit by Reapers and we're in need of aid, and that we've begun building the Prothean superweapon known as Project Crucible. It seems to be missing a component only known as the Catalyst, but that's a bridge we can cross when we get to it. At least this time the Council doesn't call us crazy, they just tell us they aren't going to help. Thanks. Back in private chambers, however, the Turian Counselor does offer us an olive branch of sorts, telling us that the Turian Primarch is stuck trying to escape Palaven in the midst of the invasion, and if we could help rescue him, he could offer us the support we need. It's not much, but it's something, and it kicks off what I call the Turian arc. When we get back to the ship, we'll find ourselves in the first of Shepard's nightmares. The cracks in the commander show early, but he will be pretty good at keeping it to himself or those closest to him. In these nightmares, you'll be chasing the child who died on the Citadel while hearing the voices of those we've lost on the way to get here. I hate to say it, but the voices we hear will multiply as the game goes on, with the dream ending when Shepard yet again fails to save the boy. We're woken from our nightmares to find Liara checking in on us, and she's a nice face to see in this troubling time, but who we should really talk about is Specialist Samantha Traynor, who also comes in after Liara. She's a quiet and reserved but crucial part of the team who does a lot with the little screen time she's given. Traynor was a part of the team retrofitting the Normandy on Earth when the Reapers attacked and ended up stuck on board when Joker and Edie stole the ship to rescue Shepard. She's decided to make herself useful, working on some technical stuff while also filling the role of yeoman to an extent, keeping us up to date on new developments we may have missed, mostly like emails and stuff like that. Now that we know our crew and our mission, it's time to go find a Turian Primarch. With that, we land on Menae, which is the largest moon of Palaven, the Turian homeworld, where the Turians are trying and failing to launch a counterattack against the Reapers. It's going to be a hot landing as Reaper troops are all over the place. Once inside, we find someone who looks vaguely in charge and ask about the Primarch we're here to rescue, who, it unfortunately turns out, already died. The line of succession is very clear in Turian society, but they will need to radio in for confirmation on who the new Primarch is, so we head out to fix the comm tower. When we get back, we'll get the answer we need as General Victus will be the next man up, but there's no exact location for him. That's the bad news, however. The good news is that a friendly face is here to help us find him. Liara will get the call back to the Normandy so that we can push ahead with Garrus at our side. It's a bit of a winding road, but eventually Garrus will lead us to the camp, which is being hit hard by Reaper forces, so we wade into the melee, doing whatever we can to help. Telling Victus that he is now responsible for his people is treated with the amount of weight it deserves.
Fedorian was killed. You're the new Primarch.
You're needed immediately to chair a summit and represent your people in the fight against the Reapers. Negotiating for the Turian hierarchy?
At first, he refuses to leave, saying he can't abandon his people to play politics while his world burns. But Shepard, of all people in the galaxy, understands what he's asking of him and convinces him of its importance. Victus agrees to come with us, but can't offer Turian aid to Earth while the battle for Palaven is going so badly, requesting that we get the Krogan to help them, and in return, he will help us. That's a tall order, but what else is there to be done, so we invite Rex to our meeting with the Turians and Salarians. The Asari, however, refuse to join us, stating that they've been down this road before when it comes to asking the Krogan for help, and they won't make the same mistake again. Which isn't actually all that unreasonable, even if it is frustrating. So Shepard gets on the dress blues and calls the diplomats onto the Normandy. Rex says he's willing to help, but first he requires a cure for the Genophage. You know, not making any big requests or anything there, buddy, just trying to rewrite the genetic makeup of your people. The Salarian Dalatras is like, hey, been here before, terrible idea, and Victus points out that that's not really something we can just wave a magic wand and do, but Rex says otherwise. Remember Morden's student Malin in the last game? Turns out he was successful and was able to cure a few Krogan females, which are now being hidden on an STG base on the Salarian homeworld of Surkesh, which goes over with everyone incredibly well as you would expect. The Dalatras doesn't really have a leg to stand on here as we push her into allowing Rex to recover his people and use them to cure the Genophage. Now, here's where I have to make an admittedly annoying detour, but I couldn't think of a better place to put it. Mass Effect came with a Day 1 DLC called From Ashes, in which you'll literally dig up a new teammate by the name of Javik. You would think a DLC character would be like Zaid or Kasumi, on the ship, but outside of a couple unique interactions, not really part of the story. Problem is that he's not. Javik is deeply intertwined with the plot, basically from the word go, and while I don't think it was ever officially confirmed, the decision to make him DLC seems like a clear-cut case of publisher meddling that EA has become infamous for. It was a serious and valid critique at launch, but with Legendary Edition, at least he's included like he should have been all along. The mission to retrieve our new comrade is pretty good and often one of the harder in the game, as it feels like it's intended for a more experienced crew. We head back to where everything started on Eden Prime. Back in Mass Effect 1, we were here for a Prothean beacon, but of course this time we find far more than that. The mission consists of finding the information we'll need to open the pod without killing him. You'd think that it's pretty dumb that we can just watch some videos and find the answers that Cerberus couldn't figure out, but it's explained to us that the Prothean cipher is what allows us to understand it. I guess their compression methods were different or something, I don't know. It's pretty cool to see a glimpse at the last moments of the Prothean Empire. I also respect the fact that they charged me $20 for this DLC on day 1 and made every Prothean look identical. That was a bold decision. Waking Javik up is really damn good though, I will admit, as he imparts his memories on us through touch, an ability his people had, and we see how he ended up here.
But for him, it's only been...
A few minutes!
No. The bunker is falling. There is no other option.
There are pods online! Those soldiers are still alive!
Their sacrifice will be honored in the coming Empire. Preparing neutron bombardment. Get to your life pod now. Neutron bombardment underway. The bunker is secure, Commander Javik.
What is left of it? A few hundred people. How am I to rebuild an empire from that?
Further adjustments may be necessary. The neutron purge compromised the facility.
Clarify.
Sensors are damaged. Automated reactivation is not an option. You'll remain in stasis until a new culture discovers this bunker. This may lead to a power shortage.
Do not shut off more pods! I need the few that are left!
Power needs will be triaged appropriately. You will be the voice of our people.
I will be more than that.
There's something terrifying about the thought of being the last of your people. You have to try and give voice to the thoughts and feelings of an entire species to know that your people are doomed and the only thing you can do for them is to give a good account of yourself before you pass. Back in the ship, we'll get the chance to learn more about Javik, where he explains that his people had exemplars of different traits: bravery, strength, cunning. He was also an avatar, the exemplar of vengeance. The last of the Prothean rage set on destroying the Reapers for what they did to his people. He's ruthless and will stop at nothing to kill those who wronged him, saying that anyone on the warpath with him is an ally, and anyone else is an enemy. You can try to stand against his viewpoint, saying that nothing we've encountered has been that simple, nothing has been that cut and dry, but he has strong words for us.
Because you still have hope that this war will end with your honor intact.
I do.
Stand in the ashes of 1 trillion dead souls and ask the ghosts if honor matters. This silence is your answer.
You can ask him questions from here at the behest of Liara about things like his sensory abilities or Prothean culture. Liara was looking for tales of the beautiful empire she spent her life learning about, but she found a warrior while in search of a poet, and he isn't one to wax lyrical about the past. We'll talk more about Javik's role in the plot as the game goes on, but for now that's enough, and it's time to head to the Solarian homeworld.
The lizard people evolved.
I believe they're amphibian.
They used to eat flies.
Alright, back to what we were doing as we head alongside Rex to the STG base in order to free the Krogan females through proper diplomatic channels and calm, rational conversation.
Rex! We have an unauthorized landing.
And who authorized you to hold my race hostage?
Well, at least that's what I'm doing. What do you want me to do? Put Rex in timeout? I actually love this area we can explore while waiting for clearance. We can chat with Rex, push the buttons,
Really? You must stop touching that.
and even bump into an old friend in Major Kirrahe, assuming he survived Vermeer. He even pledges his support in the effort to retake Earth whether his government likes it or not. I also just love introducing him to Javik.
Our enemies have the same idea.
A good principle to live by.
Who's this?
He's a friend.
A Prothean.
Prothean. Of course. Amazing what they can do with genetic modification these days. Some new psychological tactic, Commander? Give the Reapers a good scare? And what are you really? Drell? Turian?
Prothean.
Oh. I see.
Once we're down in a secure area of the base, we'll bump into another old friend, one we know far better in the form of Dr. Morden Solus, who it turns out was the one who leaked the existence of the females to Rex. Unfortunately, by the time we get there, there's only one left. There's something poetic about walking with the last of one people in Javik to save the last hope of another. Life gets complicated now as the base comes under attack from what we'll learn in a minute is Cerberus. After settling a disagreement about the base's emergency protocols, we'll get her moving to the surface so Rex can pick us up. The whole mission's pretty damn fun, moving through the base, clearing Morden and the Krogan through checkpoints, while seeing Kirrahe flex his sick new toys, and bumping into a potential business associate of Liara.
Careful. There goes the next shadow broker.
Not funny.
Once we're safely aboard the Normandy is when the real work starts, as Morden will begin work on the cure, while both Rex and Victus will have private matters to attend to. Now, for series veterans and new people alike, I should explain what I'm about to talk about because it could be a little confusing as there's technically side missions, but won't be in the side content section of the video. I'm also going to be leaving out some time-sensitive missions at this time, and I'll explain why. Both the bomb for Victus and the Rachni for Rex have direct ties to this section of the plot, and therefore I think it's essential to talk about them at this time. And while missions like Grissom Academy are in this phase of the game and time-sensitive, they don't apply to this direct quest line, so I'll be discussing those later. Alright? Sorry if that's confusing, it's as clear as I can make it. So we'll start off with Primarch Victus because it's way more of a disaster. He tells us that a Taurian ship was shot down in the Krogan homeworld Tuchanka, and he needs us to help assist in its rescue. He's super cagey with the details, but I can't see a reason he would waste my time, so I get the team out there to deal with it. Things start to become a little more clear as we find out that the captain of the ship down is Lieutenant Victus, the son of the Primarch. It's still weird, but there's troops in need of help, so we push towards the crash site, saving as many troops as we can along the way. When we get there and save Victus and his men, we finally get to the truth. They're on a top-secret mission here to disable a bomb Cerberus is in the process of setting up that will turn a huge chunk of the planet into a crater. That's a big-ass problem for everyone involved, so we tell him to get his men back on mission, and we'll meet them there to deal with it alongside them. Then, back on the Normandy, the penny drops as we learn why Victus was hiding so much from us. Cerberus may have dug it up, but the bomb is Taurian, left on the planet after the Krogan rebellions in case they should ever rise up again. We land at the bomb site and fight our way through Cerberus troops until it gets a little too easy. We get the bad news that they're pulling their men out in preparation for detonation. Great. We meet up with Victus, who's working on hacking the trigger mechanism, but asks that we help him buy some time while he works. We do what we can, but when the countdown starts, Victus only has one shot to stop the bomb from going off, and that's to detach the trigger manually. at great personal cost. The crisis was averted, I suppose, but it doesn't really feel like a win if I'm honest. I'm in no mood for an argument when Rex and Victus get back into it over the news.
The Reapers are out there destroying the galaxy, and you want to fight about this? Primarch, you had a bomb on Tuchanka. And Rex, in the Turian's place, you would have done the same damn thing.
Shepard.
It's over. His own son died today, making this right.
Next up is Rex, as he will ask us to head out to a planet where they found evidence of Rachni activity, where he has a company of Krogan commandos waiting for us. When we arrive, we find that it's Arlac company waiting for us along with their commander, who we already know.
Grunt?
Shepard? Shepard!
Turns out, while we were sitting in prison, he was earning his stripes among his people and ended up in charge of the Spec Ops unit when Rex assembled it. He's not sure what happened to the first team that was sent here, but whatever happened, it was bad. When we're ready to move, Shepard will take the express elevator down before proceeding into the tunnels. Grunt is able to piece together what happened here when we find dead Krogan and flamethrowers littering the tunnels. They were sent in to leave behind the weapons we would need to get through this maze. The combination of webbing that says Rachni and technology that says Reapers states that whatever is going on here isn't good, and that's confirmed when we finally come into direct contact with the Rachni along with standard Reaper troops. Shepard's team pushes deeper until we meet up with Arlac at the tunnel to the main chamber. There's Rachni coming behind us, so Grunt has his troops dig in to cover our backs while we search for an answer to what happened here. It's going to be a tough fight, but show no fears, Grunt assures us he's got this.
Good luck.
I don't need luck. I have ammo.
After fighting our way through, assuming you let her live on Noveria, we will discover the Rachni queen we freed all those years ago, trapped and forced to work for the Reapers. Alternatively, it'll be another queen they found floating in space. Either way, she promises aid in return for her rescue, but it's not that simple. If we buy her time to escape, Arlac company will die. It's the hard call, but just as before, I won't be the person who damns an entire race to extinction for the crime of being a victim to those with evil intent. This would be one of the easiest times in the game to simply say no, the risk isn't worth the reward. But as we'll talk about time and time again, Shepard will save the galaxy no matter what, but you're the one who will have to live with how he did it. Grunt will help us make our way out, but be forced to make a valiant last stand. He fell in service of his people's greatest enemy because he believed in Shepard, because he believed in us, and his sacrifice will not be forgotten.
Grunt!
Anybody got something to eat?
Alright, I may have lied just a little bit there. The kid's gonna be okay. With the mission done, we'll get the news that the Genophage cure is ready to be finished, and Mordin has an idea of how to both finish it and disperse it. He plans to use the Shroud, a machine that Salarians installed to help repair the atmosphere of Tuchanka from the nuclear winter they forced on themselves. It's also how they deployed the Genophage in the first place to end the rebellions. It's going to be a tough mission one way or another, but for a moment, how about we remember what it is we're fighting for? Head down to the medbay to speak to Mordin and the female Krogan. Between the two of them, there's an uneasy relationship, but it's clear that the mistrust is born of old wounds that they aren't looking to let fester. Mordin cares for her, Eve wants to trust Mordin, and Rex holds out hope for a better future. It's one of those small things to let you know this could actually work. We could cure the Genophage, and it could be good. We can be part in a brighter future for the Krogan. Mordin's growth is also something to behold. He staunchly defended his work on the Genophage when we met him, and even held to his convictions in the hospital. But something changed in him when he saw that woman on the table. Seeing the real effects your work has on the average person does something that no simulation or data has the ability to convey, and it allows you to change. Salarians live short lives, but he's done a lot of living in his, and on the back end of a life spent in pursuit of improving the galaxy, he now understands what he has to do, and why it has to be him. Someone else might get it wrong. So off we go, to save those who had saved the galaxy once before, so that we may ask them to do it again. On our approach, we learn that there's a Reaper parked in front of the Shroud we'll have to get rid of one way or another. Shepard proposes a two-pronged attack, Taurians by air, Krogan by land, and we smash it in the middle. Simple plan with no reason to fuss, but before we can leave, we have a call to take from the Salarian Dalatras who has an offer for us. She isn't willing to work with the Krogan, but she is willing to work with Shepard and explains her plan. The Salarians saw this coming and sabotaged the Shroud years ago. Mordin could fix it, but if we can stop him, the cure will be altered just enough so that it won't work and the Krogans won't be any the wiser. In return for not curing the Genophage, she offers us a Salarian fleet along with the minds of their best scientists in order to help build the Crucible. These are things that make Mass Effect 3 what they are. You have the chance to get everything you need. Support from the Krogan that will then get you the help of the Turians, along with the might of the Salarians. You're left to decide what the truly moral choice is here. It seems obvious, of course, to keep your word and save the Krogan, but it's not that simple, at least not on a first playthrough. Have you truly helped to preserve a people if they're wiped out in the coming war you asked them to fight, because you couldn't stomach to do the hard thing and get the help you needed? What if the war is lost because a Salarian mine wasn't there to help finish the Crucible, or a Salarian ship wasn't there to fire a shot that could win the battle? How we win matters, but we will only be given the luxury of debating the morality of our actions if we do in fact win. Sure, we want to be good people, to stand tall in the face of our destruction and say that we won with honor, but what good is an honorable life to those who died while you held firm to your convictions?
Stand in the ashes of 1 trillion dead souls and ask the ghosts if honor matters. This silence is your answer.
Shepard has already sacrificed so many lives for the war. Would it be disrespectful to their memory to draw the line here? Why did those people have to die, but these are worth saving? Shepard must carry with him decisions that will affect the lives of every living being in the galaxy, and he has to be right. There's no room for error. I thought I knew my answer, but then I got a reminder of who the Krogan are when we went to organize their forces. Even in the midst of their own extinction, they were willing to fight each other and become their own destruction. Could these people really be trusted to pursue peace when the war ends? You could see this struggle and wonder if there was really hope for the Krogan. Is Rex a symbol of a better Krogan future, or simply a symbol for an ideal that will die with him? But then you're reminded of what hope truly looks like. There is hope for the Krogan, if only they can find the best of themselves in this fight for survival. Shepard wears the weight of his decision on his face, but it appears that only one can see it. You have the option to tell the Krogan about the offers from the Salarians, but I've always chosen to hold my tongue, feeling as though it would only bring about conflict. We get some bad news as the Krogan trucks come to a stop, and we get out to find that the highway we were on is too damaged for us to continue. It gets worse when it turns out that it's too late to call off the Turian ships, who will be no match for the Reaper on their own. You know it's war when it all goes to hell. Rex gets Mordin and Eve out of there as fast as he can, and Shepard's team will be forced to travel along what's called the City of the Ancients. During that time, we'll feel some tremors underground and be informed that what we're feeling is possibly Calros, the mother of all Thresher Maws, which is just about the worst thing possible anyone could ever say to you. While fighting our way back to the truck, they'll share an idea with us on how to kill the Reaper since our original plan is up in flames. The new plan is to use the Maw Hammers at the site to call Calros and have her deal with the Reaper. I mean, truth be told, this isn't the craziest thing we've ever done, and it's only getting crazier after this, so why not? There's a lab just outside where Mordin can take Eve to finish the cure, and Rex volunteers to go around and lift the hammers so they're ready when we get there. This is it. These next moments will determine the fate of the Krogan, along with possibly the entire galaxy. And this isn't lost on Rex, embracing us as a friend, thanking us for all we've done and will do for his people. Truth be told, the final run-up to the hammers is more spectacle than substance. There's brutes all over the grounds forcing you to move, and on occasion the sky will darken as a warning that the Reaper's taking a shot at you, but if you just keep moving, the whole scene will only take about a minute. Mass Effect isn't about boss fights, though. It's about saving the galaxy, which today will mean two things. The first being to watch Tachanka battle back against those who would seek to make it their own, as it always has. After seeing the scale of the Reaper up close, it's hard to comprehend the very size of her, but man, it sure is fucking cool. Alas, when their battle is over, ours begins. Shepard sends his crew back to the ship to meet Mordin at the Shroud. If you kept Malin's data in Mass Effect 2, he will tell you Eve survived the final steps of creating the cure, otherwise she will have been lost in the effort to do so. There's a lot of ways that this can play out. The first we can talk about is the least likely outcome for most players. With both Rex and Eve dead, you can argue to Mordin that curing the Genophage would be the wrong thing to do. And honestly, in that circumstance, I would agree. You see, with Rex dead, it falls to his warmongering brother Reeve to lead the Krogan, and with no Eve there to check his aggression, you would in fact be dooming the galaxy to another wave of Krogan aggression, this time with a weakened galaxy unable to defend itself. Under this rare circumstance, Mordin will agree to the deception, faking his death and going into hiding for the greater good. This is one of those ways that it almost feels like the choice can be made for you due to the mistakes you made in your past. And while it's heartbreaking to deceive the Krogan, it's probably the best for the universe. The situation becomes far more interesting, however, when Rex and Eve are alive, when there is hope for a peaceful future for the Krogan, when they do deserve the chance to be better. Now you're left with a choice to fulfill your promise and do what's best for these people, the ones standing by you now, or do what might be best for the galaxy to secure a better future by siding with those who had not believed in you. Have we truly fulfilled our promise to Rex if the galaxy doesn't survive long enough for him to receive the benefits? Maybe not. So first we'll walk down the harder path and stand against our friends in order to save them. Mordin, however, won't stand for it. He won't betray those that he has come to love and respect. He won't betray himself. You can try to reason with him to tell him that this is what's best for the galaxy, that he has for so long argued the same thing.
I made a mistake! I made a mistake. Focused on big picture. Big picture made of little pictures. Too many variables. Can't hide behind statistics. Can't ignore new data. My responsibility. Need to go. Running out of time.
You see, Mordin has grown since his time in the Normandy. We dragged him kicking and screaming to face the realities of what he has done, and now he will atone for it or die trying. All great villains in our history have seen themselves as the hero doing what needed to be done. Maybe we're simply doing the hard thing that no one else is strong enough to do. Maybe Shepard will be remembered as one who did the right thing even knowing he'd be hated for it. But I don't think so. You see, I'm telling the story. I get to decide what's right and what's wrong. What line is too far, and I know Shepard is a hero not because he would do anything to save the galaxy, but because he wouldn't. Shepard understands the preservation of humanity won't come at the cost of his own, but through the struggles of holding on to what makes him human. The Shepard I know would have made the hardest choices there is, to tell the truth only to those who need to know, and carry the secrets of the Solarians' treachery by himself in order to pave the path for peace. Mordin understands, and he will brave the fires because it's the right thing to do.
Difficult decision. Why it had to be me. Someone else might have gotten it wrong.
Warning, temperature malfunction detected. Warning, temperature malfunction detected.
I've studied species Turian, Asaurian, Batarian.
Temperature now within acceptable range. Dispersal commencing.
My xenoscience studies range from urban to agrarian. I am the very model of...
Together, Shepard and Mordin will give hope to an entire people who have grown up without knowing what that word meant, and in doing so, give the galaxy a fighting chance. There's no easy choices, but this is Mass Effect, so there are the right choices. We've secured a chance for both the Krogan and the Turians as Rex start deploying troops to Palaven immediately. He did the right thing, but it won't make the nights any easier for Shepard, who will continue to be racked with nightmares, finding more ghosts every time it seems. The work never stops, though, as we're called to the Citadel by the Solarian Counselor, who believes Udina might be up to something behind the scenes. When we get to the Citadel, however, it's clear something is wrong as Joker can't reach anyone on the radios when trying to dock. When he checks emergency channels, we hear from Thane of all people, who informs us that for some reason Cerberus is hitting the Citadel, and it's bad. With the Vermeer survivor headed to save the Council, Thane is on his way to help C-Sec, who frankly is outmatched, so we head to meet him at C-Sec headquarters in order to help, although it may be too late. By the time our team drops in, Cerberus are already dug in like ticks with turrets, barriers, and elevated positions, forcing us to be tactical with our advance. No time for questions about morality now, as it's going to be a gunfight across the station. It turns out we're here just in time to save Captain Bailey's life, and in return, he gives us some info on what's been going on and how we should proceed. Turns out this may have been Udina after all, but we can't know for sure unless we can find the Solarian Counselor, who was meeting with the Executor, kind of like the Citadel District Attorney, so we head there right away, keeping in contact with Thane, who is moving to meet us there as well. It's a great arena to fight through, as we'll find little pieces of information about how Cerberus managed this, from inside sources they used to gain access, along with evidence that C-Sec knew something was coming, but nothing of this magnitude. When we get there, the Executor, along with the Counselor's guards, are dead, but it turns out he was able to slip away. Finally, we get some good news and a chance for answers, if we can save him. The Cerberus assassin is good, I'll grant him that, but we brought an assassin of our own. Thane isn't going to die here, so it's time to go out to the Cerberus agent, which proves quite difficult as he crashes our car, leaving us a step behind him on the race to save the rest of the council. We catch up on the elevators as Bailey sends ours full speed, making the assassins stop on every floor. Eventually, we can disable their elevator altogether, getting us ahead, but they will hack another one following us up. When the doors lock behind us to keep the assassins at bay, we'll be confronted by the Vermeer survivor, in my case Caden, who will want to know what the hell is going on. We attempt to explain that it's Udina behind the coup and we need to stop him, while he tries to talk his way out of it and open the doors behind us. This can actually go pretty badly, forcing you to shoot Caden, but there's a check going on in the background during the scene which will determine if it's necessary, and truth be told, it's pretty hard to get stuck in that situation, although it is possible to shoot your teammate here, which truth be told, would be no great loss for the universe. The way it plays out for most people will be that you win Caden to your side, forcing Udina to make a desperate move for the door before pulling a gun on the Asari counselor, allowing us the opportunity, forcing us to shoot him. With this, the doors behind us open anyway, and it's Bailey leading a CSEC team who's really fucking lucky we didn't go full Frank on them.
Anyway, I started blasting. Bang! Bang!
The Cerberus coup attempt is over, but it won't come without loss as we head to the hospital to find Thane. When we get there, we find out from the doctor that it's bad, with his son Koliot inside saying goodbye, and he recommends we do the same as there's nothing else to be done. It's never easy to say goodbye to a friend, and this moment still moves me to this day as we join Thane for his last moments, which he spends in prayer.
Kalahira, mistress of inscrutable depths, I ask forgiveness. Kalahira, whose waves wear down stone and sand.
Kalahira, wash the sins from this one, and set him on the distant shore of the infinite spirit.
Koliot, you speak as the priests do. You have been spending time with them.
I brought a prayer book. Commander, would you care to join me? Kalahira, this one's heart is pure, but beset by wickedness and contention.
Guide this one to where the traveler never tires, the lover never leaves, the hungry never starve. Guide this one, Kalahira, and he will be a companion to you as he was to me.
BioWare doesn't have the best writers on the planet, the best looking games, or the best gameplay, but they certainly know how to give a moment weight, as all those who played these games will feel the loss of every person they came to know over their journey. It looks like we only lost one teammate though, as on our way out, Caden will offer to rejoin the Normandy. The truth be told, I would have traded Caden for Thane in a heartbeat. I'll take what I can get though. The mission continues when we get back to the ship, with Admiral Hackett informing us that the Quarians are willing to talk and have sent a location to meet them. From one mess to another, it seems. I'm going to be honest, I despise the Quarian admirals. All of them. They're self-centered pieces of shit who will lead their people to ruin through their infighting and terrible decision-making while blaming anyone but themselves. Chorus is a beacon of hope in this storm, but after what he did to Tally in the last game, I don't trust him either. So let's break down what these idiots did. In short, they decided that while a galaxy-wide Reaper invasion, the race of sentient machines which each wield the power to take on fleets, they decided in the midst of a war we are losing to the Reapers, they should attack the only potential allies the Reapers have, who up to this point have been at worst neutral and at best actively against the Reapers. I can't even think of an analogy for how fucking stupid these people are. It's like invading Russia during the winter, then halfway through deciding you should attack Switzerland by going over the Alps. God, I hate these people. Now they have the gall to be like, hey, so we attacked the Geth and this thing that we never could have predicted happened. They went to the Reapers for help, and now it turns out duct taping guns to space minivans is inadequate for an invasion of a planet, so could you help? Turns out they're locked into a death match with a Geth dreadnought too powerful for their fleet to handle, so they want our help. The only thing the Admiralty Board has going for them is that Chorus really didn't want to be here, and they finally found a 5th Admiral to join the team. I'm here to help Tally, of course, but man, I don't like it. The plan is to hit the Geth dreadnought, which is being used to broadcast the Reaper signal to Geth troops. If we can bring it down from the inside with our team, then we have a shot at allowing the Quarians to escape quickly. Tally agrees to accompany us, so we head for the dreadnought. For what it's worth, despite the fact I'm pissed it's even necessary to be here, the mission on the dreadnought is one of the best in the game. It starts with Shepard walking across a battered docking tube in order to open the doors from the inside. Well, actually, it starts with Tally being jealous that Dr. Michelle got Garrus some Dextro chocolate, but that can wait, I suppose. Once we're in, we open the doors for the team and start heading for the command center. It's explained that if we tried to hack it from a regular terminal, the system redundancies would prevent us from doing so, and we'll have to get to the heart of the ship. We get locked in a room about halfway there, but Tali and Shepard will break down the schematics to get us a new path, running right alongside the main battery, which we'll actually have to get inside of later. Fighting alongside the main battery is such a cool arena, as it'll be given tons to think about. Regular Geth troops aren't much to deal with, but then you'll have the rocket troopers keeping you under a near constant barrage, forcing your head down. While that's happening, there's routes allowing the enemy to flank you, and the cloaked Geth hunters using all of the chaos to get close to you with their powerful shotguns. And if all that wasn't enough, every time the main gun fires, it sends a shockwave down the corridor that will fry your shields if you're caught out of cover. On Insanity, it's a ton of fun and a challenge I look forward to every time. Once we get to the core, we'll discover a new wrinkle, as our friend Legion will be used to send out the Reaper's signal. It's fair to be a bit suspicious of him in this moment, but he's earned my trust, and I'm going to do whatever possible to get him out, which will also shut down the signal, accomplishing our mission. It's a simple button press to get him out, and as a gesture of goodwill, Legion will deactivate the ship's drive core, meaning weapons and shields are offline along with the Reaper's signal, giving the fleet the perfect chance to escape. Unfortunately, the Quarian Heavy Fleet Admiral Garrel is an asshole, and instead of getting his people to safety, will instead order his fleets to destroy the Dreadnought, which, on some level makes some kind of sense, but also, fuck no, the people who just saved your lives are still on board. This means we're tasked with cutting through the vast amounts of Geth troops preventing our escape, while our own allies attempt to kill us. Thankfully, Legion is actually on our side, securing us a ride out in the shuttle bay. What follows is a daring escape and the chance to let cooler heads prevail as we temper our anger, allowing Garrel to explain no, rock that bitch and tell him to get the fuck out. Then Legion walks in and everyone starts freaking out. Side thought, Garrel and Legion 100% would have passed each other coming in, and I bet that would have been hilarious to see. I despise the admirals. They try to kill me, then Legion saves me, then they act like it's insane for me to consider him a good dude. Then he continues to be a good dude by informing the admirals that there's another base on Rannoch broadcasting the Reaper signal. When it connects, they're going to return to full strength, so they need to be prepared. He also provides the location of a base deploying fighters that are tearing the Quarian live ships apart. Gonna be honest, guys, starting to struggle with who the ones I should be helping here are. But as before on Tuchanka, there will be side missions to complete before we can go out to the main target and shut down the Reaper signal. One of these side missions is the fighter base, the other will be a reminder that not all Quarians are bad, as we're sent to save Admiral Zalcorus, who crash-landed on Rannoch while trying to save his people from an orbital defense cannon. It's easy for me to get caught up in the other admirals. Garrel is a warmonger who can see nothing but a potential triumph, maybe he has some Turian in his blood. Zen has a moral compass so fucked up it probably just spins like a top. Then there's Ron, who's the worst out of all of them with no goddamn opinions of her own, pointing whichever way the winds blow. Horus might just be the key to stopping this war, however, and so him I will save, for the good of the galaxy. With the loss of Chorus, the civilian captains are in a panic, considering attempting to make a run for it, a move that will get them killed, and so bringing them back will be essential to the survival of the Quarians, whether or not we win this war. Before we leave, however, we should discuss the 5th Admiral in Tali, who's putting on a brave face, metaphorically, but in the privacy of Shepard's cabin, she reveals that she's racked with turmoil over the war. Time with Legion aboard the Normandy showed her the same truth it showed us, that there was a path to peace with the Geth if we just get out of our own way and allow it to happen. I wish she would stand up and say it to the other admirals, but I understand that it's not easy to stand up to those who stood above you for so long, although after the trial I'm not sure if I would be considering their feelings to any great extent. Her arguments is that dissent among the Admiralty would have divided the fleet, but maybe that divide could have prevented this war in the first place. You don't actually have to bring Tali on the mission to save Chorus, but you shouldn't rob her of the opportunity to walk on her homeworld. On the way in, we'll be informed that there's a Geth jamming tower preventing us from getting a line of communication with Chorus, and we'll need to take it down. As we approach in the shuttle, we'll find formidable anti-air defenses forcing us to land and approach them on foot before we can deal with the jamming towers. Clearing the towers is business as usual, but the notable moment in this mission is finding Dorn Hotst, a dying Quarian who was hurt trying to protect the others of his escape pod. All death is tragic, but what adds weight to the heroic sacrifice of Dorn is that he wasn't supposed to be fighting. He's part of the civilian fleet. In his own words, he cleaned engine parts, and he never wanted to be part of this war. This is the cost of war that the Admiralty Board seems to ignore when considering this foolhardy campaign. Strapping cannons to a ship doesn't make it a dreadnought, and putting a pistol in someone's hands doesn't make them a soldier. If you thought that was bad enough, in his last moments Dorn Hotst will think of his son Jonah, wanting him to know that he saw the homeworld before he died. If this name sounds familiar, however, it is. Remembering the fight to take over the Alarai during Tali's trial, there was a message from a woman there, last words to her son Jonah before she died. This pursuit of conflict with a people who just wanted to live beside you has cost the child both of their parents in the matter of a year, and for what? Jonah won't be the only orphan left after this war, as once we get the jamming tower down, it's time to call Admiral Chorus and make a choice. He's been cut off from his crew, and they're both under heavy fire. There's no way to save both of them. The sad truth is that the choice here is simple. Chorus wants to save his crew, but the only chance of saving his fleet is to let them die, and we have to convince him of that. It's clear the weight of this decision will be carried by Chorus, but when he returns to find the fleet in chaos, he will understand. The other mission we launch will be to travel with Legion to a Geth server being used to control fighter squadrons that are tearing Quarian live ships to pieces. On the way there, Legion will explain the plan. We will interface digitally with the Geth server in order to shut it down. This sounds insane, but apparently will be done using technology left over from Project Overlord, which, if I'm entirely honest, I wish you hadn't told me, because... yeah. Once we're loaded into the digital world, Legion explains the plan and why it will work. The Geth minds inside the server aren't used to the way Shepard's organic mind works, and paired with Geth software, we will be able to take down nodes while Legion runs defense for us. Gameplay-wise, this mission isn't spectacular, but if there was ever an optional mission that I consider a can't-miss experience in this game, it would have to be this one. As you travel through the Geth consensus, you will chip away at the layers of who they are and uncover a few pieces of their history that no one else alive has ever seen, as you learn what led to the Geth Rebellion, something they call the Morning War. You see how the Geth were created, intending to be a labor force for the Quarians, and it equipped them with a networked intelligence. The more Geth there are, the smarter they get. This started to cause problems. As they became smarter, they started asking questions, acting less like machines and more like people. The question that would lead to this war was a simple one. A Geth looked up and asked its creator, "Does this unit have a soul?" Instead of recognizing that they had inadvertently created a new life form that needs to be treated with love and respect that all life deserves, they saw an enemy that would eventually destroy them and decided to move first, a decision that would lead them to the fulfillment of their own prophecy and the damnation of their own people. They didn't give the Geth the chance to live in peace, and so they would have to learn the ways of war. Not all Quarians believe the Geth had to die, however, a fact lost to history. Legion tells us that while many will never know, the Geth will always remember those who fought for their right to live. We see the conflict that ravaged Rannoch as the Geth didn't want to fight their creators, but also had no desire to be exterminated for the crime of being created. This is made clear when you see that they let the Quarians leave Rannoch. They could have chased them down and destroyed them, but allowed them to live instead. The last memory Legion will find is the familiar one, the first time in centuries that an organic offered a hand to the Geth with sincerity, a moment that showed this war may not have ever been needed in the first place. It's kind of hard to visualize what you've done here in the server, but it's equated to wiping out a city for the Geth, something shown in how it becomes dark as you wipe out the programs inside. It's not all bad though, as when we emerge from the pod, we'll find a platoon of Geth Primes coming to join us as well. It turns out Legion was able to convince them to join us, meaning that this venture saved the lives of both Geth and Quarians alike, something I doubt the Quarians would have ever done if the roles were reversed. With the outlying problems handled, we get to discuss the bigger problem, bringing down the Reaper signal that's buffing Geth troops, but Legion has something to say about that.
While the old machines have unethical purposes, their upgrades have vastly improved our people. Observe.
A Geth processing signal. A single unit, I believe.
Correct. Now, 10 nearby units networked cooperatively. Now, a single Geth unit with the old machine upgrades.
That's a fully evolved AI.
Yes, we do not agree with the goals of the old machines, but we find this growth beautiful, indicative of life.
It is.
Commander!
Come on, Admiral. That's a living creature, no matter what platform it's running on.
And they will die when we destroy the base.
They allied with the Reapers.
To save themselves from you.
I'm sorry, I know I keep hammering this point home, but how many times can the Quarians fail to learn from their mistakes? How can they not see that they are so clearly wrong? From a position of strength, the Geth are willing to speak of peace between the two of them, and still they will not listen. I'm not sure that this war will end the way they imagine. The plan is simple. There's heavy jamming going on at the Reaper base, so we will have to go in on foot and target the signal generator manually, allowing the Normandy to make a precision strike, bringing down the signal. Legion goes in on his own to draw enemies away from us and hack base security, which seems like a lot for a single man, but he explains that once he was free from their control, he was able to maintain the processing upgrades from the Reapers, making him essentially alive, and able to take on any troops he comes across. The amount of emotion they are able to display on Legion's face is incredible, as you can see the shame he holds for hiding this from you, but you can reassure him that we have faith in our companion. Landing on Rannoch in this moment is huge for Tali, and she takes a moment to breathe it in. We battle across the base, fighting to push the Geth back and get inside while getting updates from Legion as we go. It's a good arena with plentiful cover at the start that gets more and more perilous as we proceed inside, with more firepower being brought down to bear against us as the arena opens up, forcing careful power usage and positioning as we go, with it being easy to get caught out. The last fight against the 3 Geth Primes proves to be very challenging as they bear down on you relentlessly with almost nowhere to hide. Their massive health pools making it difficult to put one down as their repair drones keep them in fighting shape, and it's likely your companions will go down fast and often. Eventually though, Legion gets the doors open and we can target the base for the Normandy, which leads to an unexpected outcome. It's not a base built by the Reapers, it's a base built around a Reaper. There's nothing to do but hop in the ride Legion acquired and run asking for the fleet to lend us a hand. A manual shot scores a lucky hit, bringing down the Reaper, but not permanently. Shepard knows this is our only chance and decides to take matters into his own hands, having EDI link our targeting laser up to the whole damn Quarian fleet. In a move that no sane person would ever attempt, Shepard takes on the Reaper head-to-head, lining up shots for the fleet while avoiding its laser. It's more of a set piece than a boss fight, but honestly, who cares? It's cool every time and never fails to get my heart pumping, as you stand face-to-face with an enemy you've been recruiting entire fleets to battle against. When you finally knock the Reaper down, you'll get the chance to speak to it, who surprisingly knows who we are, saying that Harbinger speaks of us. Nice to know we have powerful enemies at least. You have 3 paths talking to the Reaper, each foreshadowing a choice we can make after this. There's the Renegade path speaking with fire and telling the Reaper that it's nothing more than a machine and we will kill them all, ending with a flare. Then there's the Paragon path, recognizing the Reapers are remnants of a civilization long past forced to fight against their will, and we will stand together to let them finally rest. The last option is to listen, to try and understand even if we must demand the answers we seek. Shepard makes the plea that we don't have to destroy each other, we don't want this war, but the Reaper makes a fair point.
Organics and synthetics don't have to destroy each other.
The battle for Rannoch disproves your assertion. Finish your war. We will be waiting.
Then we find ourselves primed to make a choice as Legion offers up a chance for his people. He explains with the Reapers gone and unable to control them, he could upload his version of the Reaper upgrades to the Geth, making them fully independent, making them truly alive. Tali will point out that the Quarian fleet is already attacking, and if the Geth get this upgrade, they will wipe her people out. It's a fair point, but so is this.
Shepard Commander, the Geth only acted in defense after the Creators attacked. Do we deserve death?
There isn't a good argument for killing the Geth, but there is an argument, one that's very human. Fear. To a huge part of the galaxy, the Geth are the evil machines who put humans on spikes. They're the ones who attack the Citadel. They're the galaxy's boogeyman. They're machines, and we're talking about them versus people, living people. That should trump any other argument, but I don't know. Maybe I have a biased perspective because I'm a car guy. I built my car with my own 2 hands over years, and I came to see it as more than a ton and a half, 2 tons of wire, glass, metal, and rubber. On the open road, she became my constant companion, and on the track, both my sword and my shield fighting for position. I've known a hell of a lot of people who I wouldn't pick over that car. And my car couldn't walk, couldn't talk, can't make choices, and isn't pleading for its life. But to some narrow-minded people, a machine can never be more than a machine. Legion can never be a person, and for that reason, they will let the Geth die.
Admiral, the Geth defensive line is broken.
All ships, finish them off.
I can't be responsible for the death of those who only ever asked for peace, so we'll go back and make a different choice, telling Legion to upload the code. In doing so, he will die, giving his people a chance at life. In their final moments, the Quarians would die as they lived, trying to fight a battle they never should have been involved in. There is still tragedy here, however.
Highest drive core is offline. All ships in the range. Please assist. Please assist. Escape pods not responding. All hands prepare for impact.
I'm sorry.
Tali, no!
I can't help but notice that the Quarian admirals will celebrate the victory if you choose them, but if you stand by the Geth, they will honor those who fell to give them a chance. If I was forced to make a choice, this is the one I would make without question. But this is Mass Effect. It doesn't have to be that simple. It's not always about your choice in one particular moment, but the choices that led you to a moment. It started in Mass Effect 2 with your choice to keep Legion. This was the first step to peace. Then it was doing the hard work to keep Tali in good standing with her people while keeping her trust in you. Then there were the Geth heretics. Destroying them meant that there was less Geth who wanted to join the Reapers in the first place. If you showed Tali and Legion that they were not enemies during their argument in Mass Effect 2, then they will both see that there is a chance for peace. Learning about the true history of the Geth and the Quarians during a trip into the Geth server provides you key context you need in order to sway one of the two groups. Lastly, our efforts to save Admiral Chorus will allow him to add his weight to our voice, giving us a chance to stop this war, with either a plea to the Quarians to believe in peace, or a warning that a failure to do so will result in their destruction. Honestly, I'm usually a paragon, but I like the renegade path here more. It better reflects how I feel about the situation.
Hell. Legion, keep going.
Shepard?
Everyone listen up. This is Shepard. If you don't want to be blown out of the sky in about half a minute, stand down now.
This is Admiral Talizora. Shepard speaks with my authority.
And mine as well. Negative. We can win this war now. Keep firing.
60%.
The Geth are about to return to full strength. If you keep attacking, they'll wipe you out. A few years ago, I saved you from the Geth at the Citadel. Just recently, I helped you take out that dreadnought.
80%.
But I'm through saving you. If you keep attacking, I will stand and watch while the Geth lay you to waste. It's your call. Keep us alive.
All units, hold fire.
Error. Copying code is insufficient. Direct personality dissemination required. Shepard Commander, I must go to them. I'm sorry. It's the only way.
Legion, the answer to your question was yes.
I know, Tali. But thank you. Keep us alive.
No matter what choice you make here, Legion will die in service of his people, but at least here it will be for the good of all, making sure his sacrifice will be remembered for all time as a step towards peace. And as they have the entire time, the Geth offer peace to their creators, welcoming them home with open arms. The war for Rannoch ending in peace is a beacon of hope for the galaxy. To see a war that was brewing for hundreds of years end in peace between two people thought incompatible, it shows that anything is possible. Not once, but twice has Shepard done what no one thought could be done. So maybe, just maybe, we can win a war against an enemy that has never tasted defeat. In a call placed just after we get back, Admiral Hackett speaks very well on what makes Shepard the right man for the job, as if he hadn't already proved it.
Shepard, let me tell you something that I've learned the hard way. You can pay a soldier to fire a gun, you can pay him to charge the enemy and take a hill, but you can't pay him to believe.
I don't follow, sir.
When you went up against Sovereign, there was no good reason to believe you'd win. But your crew didn't seem to care. They went along anyway. Your trip through the Omega-4 relay? That was a suicide mission if there ever was one. Yet there your crew was, standing beside you, proud to serve. Why? Because they believed in you, their leader. That's what I need now. Where we're taking them is liable to get pretty hairy, and I know you're the one who will get us to the other side.
There's no time to celebrate, unfortunately, as there's still a war on and the work is never done. The Asari counselor calls us up to the Citadel to discuss something that may help finish the Crucible. She informs us that the Asari have been hiding a massive Prothean database that could have definitely helped us the whole time, but she decided to play politician. Dumb, but fine, as we head to the Asari homeworld of Thesia to recover the data. I have rarely discussed what squad mates you should bring on any given mission because they're either obvious, like Tali on Rannoch, mandatory, like Tali on Rannoch, or it doesn't really matter, like Tali on Rannoch. But this is one case where there is a must when it comes to this mission, and it's Javik. It's so clear he was the intended companion, and it's not even close. So with Liara, because it's her home, and Javik, we head down to the fight for Thesia with the goal of reaching the Asari temple, concealing the Prothean beacon, and meet the scientists that are waiting for us there. We land in the middle of a war zone during a losing battle with an Asari commander who's on the verge of breaking, telling us she's pulling her troops back. This is the first place Javik gets involved.
I've lost enough people today. I'm pulling the rest of them out.
No! I sense you're the lineage of a leader. A warrior's skill and cunning. They are strong in your genes. But you've grown tired of war. You're exhausted by defeat, and now you worry you don't have the courage left to go on.
By the goddess, are you...
Find your resolve. This war can end if you do.
As we begin the push to the scientist, Shepard will tell Liara to only worry about the next 20 meters as there isn't time for anything else, and he's right. This mission feels like an uphill battle from the start, desperately trying to fight through what feels like endless waves of Reaper troops. Any Asari troops we come across will be on their last legs trying to survive more than actually fight back, and we will lose many on the way to the temple. This is easily one of the hardest missions we will take on, and one of only 2 times I really wished I had a bigger squad. Eventually though, we will get to the temple, but with no sign of the science team, something feels wrong. Investigating the various artifacts inside the temple is a treat, as Liara will tell us about what they mean in relation to the religious history, and Javik will then explain how it was all protheans, and she really should have noticed. We then find the dead scientist and the hidden beacon as both Javik and Shepard can sense it. We then get something that's borderline slapstick comedy, as Liara assumes it's the Prothean cipher in Shepard that makes the beacon react, and Javik's going, or it's me, the literal Prothean. Once we get the beacon fully powered on, we will be greeted by a Prothean VI who goes, "Oof, it's way too late for you, I'm out." But once we convince him to stay, we can have a conversation about the Crucible and what's needed to finish it. Before he's able to divulge exactly what the catalyst is, an old enemy will appear. I would have just immediately started shooting, but for some reason I have to chat with the elusive man before I can do that. It's pretty much just a rehash of our earlier conversations. Then we get into a very lackluster boss fight with Kai Lang that truthfully is so easy it makes what happens next really hard to believe. In gameplay, Shepard is strong, but cutscene Shepard is a far more manageable enemy. The Cerberus gunship brings the temple down around us, and while we're fighting to stay alive, Kai Lang will simply stroll up, take the Prothean VI, and walk out. Shepard lives, of course, but for the first time in our series, we face true loss and true failure. The mission ends as we watch our hope for the future fly away while listening to the destruction of one of the galaxy's greatest civilizations, unable to help. Getting the call from the Asari counselor asking about the next steps was brutal. With all our success, she didn't even consider that we might fail. Having to break the news was hard, but truth be told, the galaxy laid all its hopes at the feet of Shepard. It's not his fault he stumbled this one time. He's determined not to let this be the end though, asking if anyone has any ideas at all, and it's Samantha Traynor that speaks up. She was able to track Kai Lang as far as the Lyra system, meaning he's likely headed to Sanctuary on Horizon. It's not much, but it's a chance, so the chase is on. During the game, you will have seen ads for Sanctuary along with hearing desperate refugees talking about it. It's sold as exactly what it sounds like, a sanctuary from the war willing to take in those who need help. We would come to find it to be something far more sinister. Our first clue is that when we get in range, we hear a message from Oriana Lawson, Miranda's sister, warning people to stay away from Sanctuary. It gets weirder when we find Cerberus and the Reapers fighting each other when we get in, but of course both of them have time to fight us. Once inside, we start to piece together what happened with the datapad listing a notable percentage of the refugees being sent to integration, whatever that is. It seems as though the employees didn't know that something evil was happening here, and we also find accounts of desperate people who came here for help. Deeper in the facility, we find a warning from Miranda that this is a Cerberus facility run by her father and isn't to be trusted. What we learn is worse than could have been imagined. Cerberus is experimenting on the refugees, turning them into husks with the goal of learning to control the Reapers themselves. It's despicable to think that anyone would be capable of such atrocities. Something like that seems too evil to believe. But with things like Unit 731 being part of our reality, it's very possible. We learn that Kai Lang is in fact here and following Miranda, who is unaware of his presence at the facility. We pick up the pace and learn that they have in fact come to blows, but the results of the fight are impossible to know, so we'll just have to keep going. At the end of the road, we find a wounded Miranda and her father using Oriana as a human shield. He doesn't get out of this regardless of how it goes, with either Shepard or Miranda killing him. The only thing that changes, however, is whether or not Miranda dies at the end. It's actually pretty easy to lose her in this fight because the checklist to save her is rather odd and it's easy to miss something. Here's everything you need to do to make sure she doesn't die. Do her loyalty mission in Mass Effect 2. Warn her about Kai Lang by reading the dossier Anderson sends you in an email before you speak to her the second time on the Citadel. Give her Alliance resources in the third meeting with her, and for some very odd reason you can't break up with her at any point during the third game. Because the biotic superweapon of a woman who can fight through a whole base by herself just can't handle rejection. Sure. It feels like the babysitter in Jurassic World who just died horribly for no reason. Like, maybe double check if a writer is doing something weird because they just went through a breakup. Alright, guys? Alright? Let me tell you, trying to keep Miranda alive when this game first dropped and there was no guides was downright annoying as hell. Whether she lives or dies, she will reveal that she planted a tracker on Kai Lang that will lead us back to the elusive man's base, giving us the chance we need. We report this news to Admiral Hackett, and he says that on our order, he will mobilize the fleets, meaning this will effectively be the first step in retaking Earth. Once we launch our assault on the elusive man, there will be no going back, so we better make sure we're ready. And so I'll be doing just that. I want to take some time to talk about everything that will prepare you for this moment. The side missions, the DLC, the characters, and the music. We'll start with any of the more important side content I left out during the main story. Mass Effect 3 takes place in a galaxy at war, and so in one way or another, the missions you partake in over the game will determine how ready you are for the final battle to come. This is represented with your total military strength bar, which is an accumulated score of the war assets you've accumulated. The big ticket items will be things like the armies of various races you've recruited, but there's going to be plenty left on the table if you don't do some work outside the main storyline. A notable percentage of these war assets will be gained through what are essentially fetch quests. You'll be fed information either directly or by eavesdropping on people in the Citadel, which will give you a clue of where to go. You'll then head to Reaper-controlled systems and scan them for what you're looking for. Each scan can reveal assets to be recovered on a planet, which you'll do by sending a probe, a mechanic reused from Mass Effect 2, but in a far less annoying way. But with each scan you send out, you risk alerting the Reapers, who will hunt the Normandy down, forcing you to flee the system to avoid capture. It's honestly not a well-loved mechanic by the community as a whole, but it's something I enjoy. This tied into something else entirely, however. You see, it's called a galaxy at war for a reason. Shepard is building an army, but people still have to fight these battles while he does. Shepard is fighting for our endgame, but there's a lot of fights to be had before that just to get us there alive. Shepard and the crew of the Normandy can't be everywhere all at once. This war needs more heroes. So for a time, you and other players around the world can come together in what would be called the N7 Special Ops. For the first time, we could step into the shoes of those from all around the galaxy, experiencing the speed and flexibility of the Drell, the earth-shattering power of the Krogan, the invincibility of a Geth Prime, or the very opposite in a paper-skinned Vorcha forcing you to hit and run. You got the galaxy to fight as part of a team, working together to defend the galaxy, creating your own legends, forging your own heroes, as you fought to keep hope alive against impossible odds. Multiplayer will go down as a footnote in the history of Mass Effect, but for those of us who were there, the memories are something we'll never forget. I think the servers are still live, by the way. If the servers are still live, anyone can feel free to DM me on Twitter or Discord to get a game going. I would love to. So where did you fight in multiplayer? Well, in the places Shepard made you a gap, of course. Places like a Cerberus laboratory, or a fighter base on Noveria, maybe even a fuel depot. These are places you'll breeze through in the main campaign only to fight tooth and nail to maintain as part of the N7 teams assigned to them. There are bigger fights to be had out there for the Normandy crew, though, some that will hit much closer to home. During our battles on Tuchanka, Trainer will be the one wise enough to cut through the noise and notice the little things, working with EDI to piece together that Grissom Academy may be under attack. It's a school for human kids gifted in either biotics or engineering. Most of the school was evacuated when the war was started, but some students stayed behind determined to find a way to help. We find it under assault by a Cerberus frigate and fighter squadron who Joker leads away so we can slip in with the shuttle. We make contact with Kaylee Sanders, who is running the school at the moment, and she gives us an update. Cerberus is here to kidnap the students for some nefarious reason, but we can help. She sent us to the main hall where most of the students are held up with one of the school's instructors. You'll really feel the urgency of the mission right away as you're unable to help the first student you see being dragged away, hammering in the importance of what we're doing here. We are able to find some students along the way on our path to the main hall and save them from abduction. You want a fun fact? Well, I'm going to tell you anyway. This datapad right here is when I first learned how biotic combo detonations worked the first time I played this game. I don't know if I just wasn't ever paying attention or if it was from the fact I only ever played a soldier in the original runs before I started doing YouTube and stuff. So I didn't have biotics myself, but yeah, this is where I learned about this. Keep pushing forward where we can get to the main hall and get a little surprise.
Eat this!
Jack!
Shepard? Everyone get down! This thing's out of your league! Shepard, keep it off us!
This is the last place I would have expected to find Jack, but man, I have to say, it really does suit her. The official canon will have Jack being taken prisoner and turned into a phantom along with her students if you don't rescue them here, but I'll be honest, I just can't see Jack allowing to let that happen. Either way, it's nice to see someone who's gone through so much find her place in the world. Although, I guess I should explain what this place is. When Shepard was locked up, the Alliance offered Jack a spot here teaching, and she took it. Then the Reapers came and the students wanted to help, so unable to abandon them, she's helping train them for biotic artillery strikes, essentially throwing a lot of biotic firepower at whatever target gets in their way. She sees them making strides, but tells Shepard the truth, that they would work better as backline support than frontline fighters. Never thought I'd see the person who did this argue that she should be put in the back. We put her mind at ease and tell her that we'll get her students out, and that's just what we'll have to do heading towards the hangar to commandeer some Cerberus shuttles. Something about this open arena and the massive amounts of engineers putting turrets down makes it a nightmare for me every time I come through here. But that may come down to my preferred rifle being the N7 Lancer, being more of a Max Holloway than an Ilia Taporia. I don't know when this video is coming out, but as I write this, that fight is in 2 days, and I'm absolutely terrified of what's going to happen in it. But I'm rooting for you, Max. Yeah, I'm doing this voiceover far after it happened, and I am in absolute shambles. Still a Taporia fan, but man, he didn't have to fucking kill him. On our way to the hangar, we run into 2 Cerberus goons trying to get a couple students hiding behind a barrier. In some cases, the students won't trust you and you'll have to convince her, but if you did Project Overlord, there's an old friend here to vouch for us. It's good to see that sending David here was the right move, as he's looking far better than the last time we saw him. He'll even crack the door to the security room for us, which is nice. After one final fight, we'll get Jack and her students safely out of harm's way, and even get the choice whether to put them on the front lines, or as support in the back lines. Yeah, that's not too tough of a choice. It was good to see Jack, and we can sleep easy knowing that she'll keep those kids safe. There are those in danger in other parts of the universe, however, this time a quiet corner tucked away in a sorry space as we're asked to investigate a monastery of all things. On the way in, we learn that this is an Yakshi monastery. Remember Mornith? It's a bit creepy on the way in, as all we'll find to greet us is a recently parked car and an elevator that's been shut down, but to keep people in, or to keep them out, it isn't clear. As we'll move through the dark rooms, we find evidence the Reapers are indeed here, and the Commandos seem to have fallen in conflict with them while attempting to bring this place to the ground. For once, the first thing we find in a house of horrors is an old friend. Samara had 3 daughters, remember? One she was forced to hunt, and the other 2 live here in peace, so she came to protect them as any good mother would. We agree to catch up to her as fast as we can, but first we'll learn what the Reapers came here for.
They're turning us into those monsters. Please, you can't let that happen to Rila.
The cries of the Banshee have haunted those who have faced them since they were first revealed in this moment. Relentless creatures who will blast you apart with biotic attacks, never halting their advance, as getting you in their grasp means death even for the greatest warriors the galaxy has to offer. Banshees are a nightmare that will plague the galaxy for the rest of this war, but at least we can do something about the ones here. Samara finds her daughter Falere, but she takes off determined to save her sister Rila, who has been taken by the Reapers. We eventually find them in the Great Hall, and we'll have to fight off multiple Banshees supported by regular Reaper troops, making for an intense fight as you'll constantly be in search of cover and a moment to return fire. Once we clear the area, we find the detonator for the bombs the Commandos placed here, in the hands of Rila, who is defiant to the end, unwilling to go quietly while these creatures defile her home. It's a great loss for the galaxy. It will only get worse when the Justicar Code requires Samara to make the ultimate sacrifice.
What are you doing?
I'm sorry, Shepard. By the Justicar's code, there is only one way to save Falere.
Mother, no!
My daughters, you were all. Let go.
What are you doing?
Fulfilling the code.
By throwing your life away?
I won't kill my last daughter.
You won't have to.
Falere?
I'll stay here. Home. No matter what's become of it.
Without a proper monastery,
I could have left any time. I don't need a building to honor my own code. And if the Reapers return, they won't take me alive. I promise.
Well, I wouldn't call it a happy ending, but this war has even made small beacons of hope seem to burn with the brightness of a new sun. Left after this are 2 shorter missions on the Citadel. First, we track down a Volus who was working for Cerberus and find him after he was kidnapped by some mercs and Zaid Masani. We convince him to give up info on a colony Cerberus is about to attack, along with access to the Volus bombing fleets. After this, we're approached by a Spectre who's working on tracking down info on a dirty Hanar who seems to be indoctrinated. Turns out this was the info inside Cage's gray box, and so we'll have Kasumi following along as we investigate. With her at our side, we're able to stop an attack on the Hanar homeworld and save the Spectre we were working with. Hell, speaking of the Citadel, we'll even run into that Batarian terrorist, Balak, from Bring Down the Sky, who's been doing some pretty shitty stuff because he still hates humans. But you can convince him that lending our alliance his fleet is the best chance the Batarians have. Honestly, he's surprisingly sympathetic if you can get past the terrorism. You can see how much he cares for his people and that he knows this war will likely be the end of them. It's not great when the last hope for your people is a terrorist. It's good to see the people we fought alongside doing good all across the universe. Jack with her students, Samara with her daughters, Morden righting a wrong committed far before his time, Rex battling against his people's nature to give them a chance at life, Legion literally sacrificing himself to give his people a chance, Miranda finally breaking her father's grip over her life, Thane getting a chance to die a hero's death, something he probably never thought possible, Grunt earning the respect of his people. Everyone gets the chance to be an influence for good, one way or another. Oh, and Jacob is high on the Citadel for some reason.
Hey, Shepard. I'm glad to see you. I feel it. Do you feel it?
Yeah, sure, I feel it.
Weird. There's one last person of influence here on the Citadel, however, and that's Arya. The Queen so very far from her throne is something I didn't expect to see. Turns out that Cerberus were the ones to cast her from her home, luring her away and swooping in to take over Omega before she could do anything about it. Now she's here plotting her revenge and gathering allies, one of them being us. She offers us the Blue Suns, the Eclipse, and the Blood Pack for our war against the Reapers. It takes a bit of work, killing some people, saving others, and negotiating with a crazy lady, but in no time at all we have a bloodthirsty mercenary force willing to fight for us. Having done us a favor, Arya will later ask for one in return. She was ousted from her home on Omega by Cerberus and needs our help to take the station back. General Oleg Petrovsky is the enemy she has to face in order to retake Omega. She has a plan, but will need Shepard's help. We of course agree, and head to her fleet alone to assist in the battle. Arya isn't exactly forthcoming with the plan for getting into the station, but it's a lot like her. Brutal. She uses a stolen Cerberus cruiser to get us in close before launching a surprise attack and calling in her fleet, which is when we're first contacted by the General. Truth be told, he's a pretty reasonable man, telling us that the station's upgraded defenses will tear us to pieces, and he's simply willing to let us walk away. Of course, Arya isn't going to do that, and gives the order to ram the station. The ship we're on is armed with tech that will drop the station's barriers on contact. Turns out, Oleg wasn't lying about the new defenses, though, as they teared the ship up, forcing us into escape pods. She may have a high opinion of herself, but Arya knows who she's with, telling Shepard that in combat, his orders go. The arenas in Omega are fantastic, with lots of cover for both sides. It's up to you on how to approach, with both a methodical or incredibly aggressive approach, both being viable. Once in the security center, Arya is able to shut down the defenses, allowing for her ship to land, but not knowing she's being watched, she lets the landing location slip to the General, meaning we've got a fight on our hands when we get there. On the way, we'll spot some strange barriers blocking our path. Arya knows how to get around them this time, but they present a new issue. With these barriers come the Rampart mechs, which seem to be the only thing able to move through them. They're heavily armored and will advance on you with shotguns and omniblades, making them a priority target in combat. While moving below the streets to get around the barriers, we'll run into Nyreen Kandros, who it turns out is an old associate of Arya's. It's clear there's more to her than meets the eye, but there's no time for an interrogation right now as we need to push to Arya's base, which is under attack, so we allow Nyreen to come with us. There's an engineer outside the main gate keeping Arya's guns non-operational, but once we get there and take him out, they come to life, completely changing the dynamic of the battlefield. Even with the base secured, however, there's still problems to be solved. The half-baked invasion plan meant that Arya lacks the troops needed for a final assault, and that means we'll need to recruit some allies.
Story of my life.
The only real option we have is the Talons, a local game that seems to be acting as the resistance of sorts. Arya says it's not who she'd pick given a choice, but we don't really have a choice, so here we are. Interestingly, Nyreen slips away while we're working on a plan, but there's no time to worry about her now. Something seems off to Arya as we move closer to the Talons' base. She knows their leader Darius, a ruthless, profit-driven man who doesn't seem to be capable of this kind of selfless rebellion the Talons are engaged in. Either way, we push forward through the Cerberus troops, even saving some of the Talons where we can, until we come across a group of them being interrogated in search of information regarding the Talon leader, who it turns out is no longer Darius. Nyreen being the Talon leader isn't really a big surprise, but it's nice that they didn't try to drag out the reveal. With Nyreen at our side, we make for the Talon base, which is currently under Cerberus attack. Once we've driven Cerberus back and gotten into the base, Nyreen will clue us into a different problem we weren't aware of yet: adjutants. They're monstrosities built in a Cerberus lab that share qualities with Reaper troops, probably an offshoot of things learned at Sanctuary. Wielding powerful biotics and ferocious up close, we're warned that they are a dangerous enemy who can rip through entire units with ease. Nyreen clearly holds the loyalty of her people here, but Arya isn't going to give up her throne that easily. After repelling another assault on the Talons and getting back to Arya's base, it's time to plan the final push needed to retake Omega. Starting with getting rid of these barriers Cerberus has sent up everywhere. We head out for the Ezo mines the city is built around in order to get to the main reactor and shut down power to the shielding. This is where we'll first run into an adjutant, which truth be told is far less of a threat to Shepard than advertised, as they fall rather easily. It kind of creates a disconnect between the story and the gameplay, as Nyreen is clearly shaken by the creatures losing her composure at the mere sight of them. I understand there's just limits to gameplay, but you could have made them a little bit tougher. Their design is very good though. The reactor is of course a trap. The General knew we would have to come this way and locks us in with the aim to kill us. But once in a while, Arya will show us why she's the queen here, refusing the concept of impossible and literally ripping a hole in the shield for us to go through. We're sent to reactor control to try and shut down the power to the barriers, which is where we're given a choice. Nyreen and Arya are in the thick of it, so the easy option is just to hit the reactor shutdown, but that could have serious consequences for civilians around the station and their life support. The other option is to take the time to reroute power away from the shields, or this could be the literal one time in the game your class choice matters, as engineers can just do it immediately anyway, making everybody happy. Whatever you choose, when the barrier comes down, the party starts as Arya intended, with troops and civilians alike swarming the Cerberus positions. Nyreen doesn't approve, but there's no time for that now as we have a new development. Cerberus has placed bombs in central support columns. We go with Arya to defuse them while Nyreen will go and try to prevent as many civilian deaths as possible. On the way to the columns, don't forget to stop and ping Arya's couch for the merchant who asked us to find it. With the bombs dealt with, we get the report that the advance on Afterlife from the ground forces and civilians is going well, meaning we can move to meet them at Afterlife. Arya has had enough of all the sneaking around and provides us a more direct path than before. On the way, however, we stumble into a Cerberus lab, seemingly where they worked on the adjutants, and being Cerberus, failed to contain them as they get loose and begin killing all their guys. Arya has one of her techs make sure to seal the doors in this area behind us to avoid their escape, and we keep moving to the streets against Cerberus. Nyreen moves on ahead, saying she needs to check something out, and it won't be long before we find out what that is, as adjutants are unleashed on the people attacking Afterlife. Against overwhelming odds, Nyreen makes her choice. It takes quite a bit to unsettle Arya, but it's clear Nyreen meant more to her than she let on, unleashing her rage upon Cerberus. While her power is immense, it's clear why she normally works to maintain control of her emotions, allowing the general to bait her. Our final confrontation will be the battle to free Arya, then fight alongside her to wipe out what remains of the general's forces. Knowing he's beaten, the general will stand down peacefully, a man of honor to a certain extent. Then we get a glimpse into who we are as a person as Arya becomes a reflection of us. She was always ruthless, never one to search for compromise or compassion, but you can change that. If you spend the course of the DLC trying to show her a better way, often aligning yourself with Nyreen to that extent, you can soften Arya to the point where she'll let the general live, allowing us to take him so that his knowledge may help our war against his masters. She will also soften on the people of Omega, showing compassion if only for but a moment, as she tells people that they will cast the invaders from their shared home before rebuilding. But if you allow Arya to run wild, or even feed into her violent tendencies, then she will take her revenge on the general before telling people that it's time for them to do the same. Omega is an ode to a character fans have loved from the first moment we saw her, and while it feels more like cut content than a true expansion on the original game, I have always loved it. One of the biggest things I failed to mention was that 2 new powers Arya brings to the table we're able to use as Shepard as one of our bonus abilities. Flare feels exactly like the kind of thing she would employ, sending a massive biotic blast of energy at her enemies, and it used to be my go-to, but then I tried Lash, which is infectious. It acts as a biotic whip, which rips enemies off the ground towards you, and with upgrades can even work through shields and barriers. It's great at removing the shields from Cerberus Guardians or taking out enemies who get a little too close to walls. I'm not sure if I ever thought Omega would be something worth fighting for, still not sure what I think about it, but the art team certainly built a world that felt perfect. It's a couple hours where you get a glimpse into the seedy underbelly of the world you're fighting for, and you get to decide if that's worth laying down your life for. The answer will be different for everyone, but for me, I'll quote someone quoting someone else.
Ernest Hemingway once wrote, "The world is a fine place and worth fighting for." I agree with the second part.
At least we got the chance to give a few people their lives back. There's another journey we need to go on, however. Not to somewhere we've been before, but all across a wide galaxy chasing a ghost who could be the key to winning the war. It's time for Leviathan. We get the call from Hackett to go and see Dr. Bryson, who's been working on a secret project that may just lead us to a life-changing discovery. When we get to his lab, he starts to fill us in on what he's been researching, but it won't be long before we get an inkling as to how deep the rabbit hole goes, as his assistant will seemingly lose control before killing Bryson. We take him down, but this leaves us with a mystery to solve of what they were doing here and why it got a man killed. To help us with this, we get Edie, who came by to see why C-Sec was sent to our location. We catch her up on what's going on and come up with a plan to track down Garneau, one of the people on Bryson's team searching for Leviathan. In search of information on the project, we learn what it really is that they were searching for.
Admiral, the Leviathan of Dis that we've been investigating, I think we're really onto something. Give me the brief. About 20 years ago, The Batarians discovered a Reaper corpse that had died in battle. They covered it up and denied it ever existed. But I'm intrigued by the larger implication. What could have killed the Reaper in the first place? Exactly. That's the real Leviathan. It's worth pursuing. Continue your investigation and update me on the progress.
With the possibility of a Reaper killer out there and evidence the Reapers are after it as well, the chase is on, so with the help of Edie, we dig through any evidence we can find in order to get a location on Garneau. Using whatever we can gather from the lab, Edie will help us narrow it down to a system and we head out to rescue him. On a sleepy little mining facility on an asteroid, we touch down to find Reapers have beaten us here, meaning we're probably in the right place, but it won't be easy to get what we need. For once though, the Reapers aren't what concerned me, it's when we open the doors they were trying to break down and find peace. When you expect chaos, to find peace can run a shiver down your spine. Something is wrong here. It's as if the people aren't quite real, like we've stepped into a different reality that is projecting us. Moving through the facility, even Shepard will operate at a whisper, solidifying a tone that tells us we should leave. We find evidence that Garneau was here, but it's like he doesn't really exist until we find a message from him to Bryson that failed to send, where he asked for help. Once we get ourselves deep into the facility, we can find Garneau in the med bay, but he fits in with everyone else here a little too well. He doesn't reject our presence with his silence, however, instead demonstrating the power behind whatever it is we're truly chasing.
The darkness must not be breached.
The darkness?
Why do you pursue me?
Doctor?
Leave the artifact. You will not take what is mine.
I don't believe we are speaking to Garneau.
It becomes a brutal fight to beat back the Reaper troops so we can get to him before it's too late, and they throw everything at us they can, pushing Shepard's team to the brink. We reach the end of the road, but will be denied answers. Turns out that was never Garneau at all, but this is, and he's been dead for a while now. But not as long as the miners have been trapped here, as it turns out. Destruction of the artifacts when the bomb went off seems to have broken Leviathan's hold over the people here, leading to a devastating revelation.
What year do you think this is?
2176.
2176 was 10 years ago.
What?
2 dead researchers, 2 dead ends, and the mystery is starting to look like something I might not want the answer to. Whatever Leviathan is, it's more powerful than any enemy we've faced beyond the Reapers, maybe even being greater than them. And we have no idea if they will become a new foe should we drag them into the light. Back at the lab, we shield the artifact and begin the search for a new lead. It's found in the form of Bryson's daughter, Anne, who is also working on the project and will need our help. But first we need to know where she is. Yet again, with the help of Edie, Shepard will dig through whatever we can find in the lab to track down a location on Anne, and once we have enough, we head out, hoping we're not too late. Another doctor, another new planet, and another fight with the Reapers on our hands. It's going to be a hot drop into hell trying to save Anne Bryson. It's chaos with the lab under constant attack, destroying one path and opening another. While waiting for a bridge to rise, we get a hint we're on the right path as we find pictures of Reapers depicted on walls that may just be older than humanity. Every step could be their last, but the team has come too far for answers to stop now, wading into the madness, meeting it with Shepard's own dogged determination. When we get to her, Anne is alive, but only just, and it'll be a fight to get her out in one piece. That's before they stumble upon the Reapers somehow activating one of these artifacts, which seems to draw some kind of response out of Anne as another voice speaks in her place. Destroying the artifact seems to stop it, and after another brutal fight, we make a run for the shuttle, getting out by the skin of our teeth. What is the first victory for us will become another tragedy for Anne as we inform her of the death of her father. A reality that would have broken me is met with somber acceptance of someone stronger than I could ever be. Now this I understand, to find strength in the face of another, but to crumble in solitude when there's no one around to be brave for. But when Shepard returns, so does the doctor, ready to find answers. She walks us through the lab, in some ways serving as her own personal trip down memory lane. Downstairs, we find James waiting on us, curious to see where this all goes. Anne doesn't have any information we don't, which you'd think would be a dead end, but she does have a plan. She thinks that Leviathan, established this through the artifacts, must go 2 ways, and if she were to allow it to take her over, we could track it back to its origin. It's dangerous, borderline madness, but she's determined to see this through, to uncover the mystery that killed her father. No one else has a better plan, so we drop the barrier and wait. Leviathan channels his rage through Anne, seemingly tearing her to pieces as it warns us to stay away, that the darkness must not be breached. The longer you maintain the connection, the more accurate the trace will be, but the more damage you will do to Anne. One way or another, we will have our lead, and it's time to find out what lurks in the darkness. 2181 Despoinia. That's where we find it. A whisper of the darkness. The probe we launched detects a signal deep beneath the waves of this ocean world, but we won't get to see them just yet as something knocks the shuttle out of the sky and we crash land on what appears to be a graveyard of those who have accidentally stumbled into Leviathan's hiding place. We find records of the people who landed on this ship we landed on top of, how the same pulse knocked them out of the air, and in search of food they found Leviathan's artifacts. We read how they slowly succumbed to Leviathan's power, eventually being convinced that it would be best if they never left this place. And they never would. We're not alone, though. We may have beaten them here for once, but the Reapers weren't far behind and will be forced to defend Cortez while he attempts to get the shuttle airborne again. His success will be short-lived, however, as another pulse will knock him out again, meaning we'll need a different plan if we ever want to get out of here. He tells us if we can get power to them, Shepard can take one of the diving mechs below the waves in search of the answers we came here for. It's a dangerous plan, but hell, what else are we going to do? Shepard will take a very literal leap into the unknown, traveling so far down that no one can hear him, and only the bioluminescent plant life will provide light to see. We descend deeper and deeper, straining the limits of the suit at over 3,000 meters below the sea. Then, far below the waves, we find him, who we were looking for as we come face to face with Leviathan. Speaking to Leviathan, it's clear that he has resigned himself to hiding from the Reapers in search of survival, and doesn't see much hope for humanity, but admits that Shepard is different, trying to understand why the Reapers see us as a threat. Leviathan will tell us of its history. They were the first race to rule the galaxy and all those who lived in it, but in time the races that served them built the first machines that would go on to kill them, and in his own words, tribute does not flow from a dead race. So in a moment of hubris, they created their own machine to solve the problem. An intelligence given the mandate to preserve life at all costs. As it often does, the intelligence would come to the conclusion that the only way to save lives would be to take them for itself before they could wipe themselves out. This is when the first Reaper was born, given the shape of Leviathan and the name of Harbinger. Life itself became a game, letting civilizations rise before wiping them out in an attempt to find a system that worked. The intelligence was attempting to perfect life through brute force, which is like trying to stop a fire by opening the floodgates in hopes of finding those who can swim. In their moment of foolishness, Leviathan released a terror that would haunt the universe for millions of years, and yet they aren't willing to fight, saying that Shepard is special, but he will stay here with them to watch and observe while the harvest continues. Shepard isn't swayed, however, telling Leviathan the time to fight is now, that united we have a chance to end this experiment once and for all. And so, moved to action by Shepard's singular determination, Leviathan comes to understand that it's true. There is a chance, and now it's time to show the galaxy who the true gods are.
Your confidence is singular.
I've earned it. Out there fighting, where you should be.
It is clear why the Reapers perceive you as a threat. Your victories are more than a product of chance. We will fight, but not for you or any lesser race. We were the first, the apex race. We will survive. And the Reapers who trespass on this world will understand our power. They will become our slaves. Today, they pay their tribute in blood.
It seems we may have awoken some grand new evil on the universe, another choice made in this war that we may look back on and regret, but what's done is done. At the very least, it provides us a little hope. As with proof of the Reaper's beginning, we may yet have the tools to write them an ending as well. Endings. That's what we're here to talk about, isn't it? Filling in all the blanks as we come to our grand conclusion. I struggled with where to talk about this, as this next story is both part of the journey to the end, and an end in of itself. Citadel, the very reason this channel exists, it was a love letter to the fans of Mass Effect that had followed the team along this grand journey. Being the last piece of Mass Effect story ever released, serving as a moment to say both goodbye and thank you from the devs to the players. For me, it serves as the end, so in theory, it should be the conclusion of this video, but I've already spoken of Citadel before in some length, so it seems foolish to drag it out again. Instead, we'll treat it like what it was inside the canon. One last whimsical diversion for the team that would walk into hell together in an attempt to save all that they loved. One last reminder of what they fought for. Admiral Anderson will give Shepard his apartment on the Citadel, telling him that he doesn't think after all this he'll ever want to leave Earth, and I can't say I blame him. He tells us to take some time off for once and blow off some steam while we still can. It's an incredible gesture from Anderson, and the team has certainly earned some shore leave. We'll get started with a message from Joker asking us to meet him at some fancy sushi restaurant down on the strip. It doesn't take long for our supposed vacation to start to unravel, however, as Joker asks us why we invited him here before we'll tell him he invited us. An Alliance staff analyst by the name of Brooks will stumble in to explain that we're in danger. Someone has hacked Shepard's comms and intends to do us harm. This will set the tone for the experience we're about to have.
Big mistake.
Oh, there goes vacation. Shepard will grab a gun and fight his way to Brooks. This whole section will leave you without armor, meaning that we're more vulnerable than usual, limited to this admittedly fantastic pistol that we grabbed off of Merc. The new enemies will also challenge us, showing off some cool new abilities like cluster grenades and drones intended for taking down our shields that both make staying in cover hard. After a trip through a fish tank, Shepard will have to move across the Citadel in search of safety. One thing I do love about this sequence is the concept that Shepard didn't bring any metagel or guns with him, but did fill his pockets with hand grenades before coming, assuming you're a soldier class, that is. Fight through dark alleys and markets full of fruit liquors, and we can find a little help at a local car dealership. Unfortunately, the C-Sec shuttle meant to be our ride is another trap, but some old friendships can handle that. After fighting the dealership and our real ride coming back, the team will meet us back at the apartment to figure out what comes next. Turns out what follows immediately is everyone being really damn upset about the fish tank at the sushi place. At least James just decided to shut the fuck up and order a pizza. In the midst of dinner difficulties, Liara will dig into this info on the very interesting weapon we found, able to track it back to a local weapons dealer named Khan who's holding a party at his casino tonight. The plan is pretty simple: go to the party, do an Ocean's 11 impression, and get to Khan. This requires pressing Brooks into service as she has the perfect skill set for bypassing the internal security without setting off too many alarms with security when she walks in like Edie or Tally might have. We get inside, and while Brooks goes crawling through the vents, we're left to mingle with interesting people, like this genius, sometimes referred to as Zivin.
I love roulette. Every minute is more exciting than the next.
Should I point out the flaw in that statement?
Oh, are you like one of those detail people? Come on, even diamonds have flaws, but that doesn't make them less valuable.
A Turian Robin Hood or the rich and powerful. Occasionally we'll be called upon to distract a guard or bring down a security system Brooks can't get to, all leading up to the final confrontation with Khan. We get right to the point, telling him we know he armed the mercs and we want info on who hired him. Turns out there ain't no bitch in his blood though, and he ain't telling us shit no matter what we do to him. Mostly on account of being dead, but, you know, my ain't raised no snitch. The computer seems to have been wiped out, but Shepard does some digging for mistakes and finds one, finding himself on the line with the man who tried to kill him. There's no way to ID him at this moment, but it's a start. With any luck, Edie will be able to dig up more when we get back. She does find another lead that will bring us to the Citadel Archives, a massive facility meant to house the most important pieces of galactic history. With the scope of the problem in front of us, it's decided that for once we're bringing the whole damn team with us to help move across the facility. James provides a very simple entry plan, and then it goes wrong pretty much immediately. The fight with the mercs will be short-lived, however, as Brooks will magically end up captured by the man we're here to see. This sucks, but at least we get a first look at who we're fighting, and, yeah. So, TLDR, this is a clone that Cerberus grew for spare parts while they were rebuilding the original Shepard. They threw this one in storage once Shepard was awake, but now someone got him up and he's having a bit of a temper tantrum. At the very least, he's kind enough to confirm his side character status when he pulls the cheesy villain move of leaving before telling his men to shoot us, leaving Shepard the opportunity to escape. Flanked by our squads above, we'll give chase to Shepard's clone as his crew makes fun of him for how absurd of a problem this is. After some rule breaking from the mercs, shooting at a team while climbing on a ladder, we get a show of teamwork and head deeper in, getting bits and pieces of unknown Mass Effect lore on the way, like recordings from the First Contact War, the Krogan Rebellions, and the deployment of the Genophage, among many more. Of course it was a trap, however, as we're locked in with one of the vaults they use to store things here, and our other crew members are as well. Then we find out Brooks was working with Shepard Jr. the whole time, and he explains his evil plan: to update official records to show him as the real Shepard before getting rid of anyone who would know it wasn't really him and taking the Normandy to play pretend across the universe. He gets away as we're sealed in the vault, but only for a moment, and this might be the best dialogue in the game, something to be enjoyed by longtime fans.
He said, I should go. Do I sound like that?
As long as I've known you, yeah.
May I suggest we concern ourselves with this Iridium vault, inside which we have been permanently sealed?
I'm more confident than he is, more in control. With me, it's more like, that's all for now.
Spoken like a Krogan. Show him who's boss.
At most, we have an hour's worth of air remaining.
Or sometimes, I'll talk to you later. Because you know what? I never do. Leave him wanting more.
Shepard, I would advise greater concern about our situation.
Oh, Glyph, you still out there?
So Shepard is on his way to steal Shepard's ship, which means Shepard's crew will have to hop in a cab flown by Shepard's pilot in order to get to Shepard's ship before Shepard can take off. Take EDI with you just for this moment.
Shepard, your clone has entered the ship and is attempting to...
She's supposed to do that?
I'm okay.
Really?
Fight across the docks to get to the Normandy before liftoff, but we'll find a locked door and a very confused Samantha Trainer when we get there. Getting to know your crew will pay off in moments like this, as Shepard will be able to prove his identity by identifying Samantha Trainer's 6,000 credit toothbrush, that we will then break in order to get into the ship. As if taking over my ship wasn't bad enough, the son of a bitch threw out my fucking hamster. Now for that, he will die. I'd like to make a joke here about how weird it is to see our clone in our armor, but Shepard does it better than I could.
Well, that's creepy.
This fight is about as perfect as one could hope for, really feeling like you're fighting Shepard, albeit one limited by something. That something being a lifetime of experience and the people fighting at your side. Fighting someone who's hurling powers at you, constantly healing with Metagel when they're hurt, and supported by a strong person at their side is rough, but when it all comes down to it, we see the difference between someone on your side and someone on your team. With the clone and the company he takes taken care of, it looks like the team may actually get a little bit of shore leave after all. Joker decides that while we're all here, we should have a party, and I agree with him. After all this, the team deserves a little bit of fun. There is so much more to Citadel than I'm going to be able to talk about here today, but what I can do is stop to share what that experience felt like when the game came out. Some people loved Mass Effect 3, some were indifferent, and some were very angry about it. But for a few hours, while we all played Citadel, everyone got to enjoy a trip down memory lane, laughing with friends, remembering the fallen, and saying goodbye to this big, wonderful thing that was Mass Effect. We didn't know where the series would go from here, if it would even continue, but the time on the Silver Sun Strip felt like sitting around a campfire with every fan of the game, and everyone who made it possible just remembering the journey. It was never written into the game, but the message was so very clear. We're sorry we didn't live up to your expectations, we love every single one of our fans, and we love Mass Effect just as much as you do. It's probably unfair to consider the emotional impact the game had on me at the time, but truth be told, I'm a little choked up just thinking about what it was like to experience this for the first time. The game is so heavy, and while it does a good job at working in moments of levity, the weight of the ultimate goal always looms above your head. And in theory, it should here on Citadel, but being released all the way at the end, it never did. It felt like from the dinner at the sushi place, it was clear we were allowed to forget about the war for a minute and have some fun. That's what made it such an effective goodbye. If you wanted to, you could pretend that this is the afterlife and how Shepard was rewarded for saving the galaxy. There's just so much to love about the time you spend outside of the party, which I promise we will talk about in a minute. You get the chance to see all your teammates who are still alive, often twice, once out in the world doing something silly and once in your apartment in a more personal manner. Some of the better ones inside are, well, and I'm cheating with this one, but whoever you're romancing is you get a unique scene like with Jack, where normally she would bring over her biotic Varen to destroy your furniture. Instead, she will give you a tattoo. Her way of making sure she can always find you, something that provides her a sort of security in this troubling time to come. Then there's James, who will come over to talk about his acceptance into the N7 program, but will end with him challenging Shepard to beat his pull-up record, which I think every Mass Effect player will do every time through a painfully long QTE as you press those damn buttons 183 times in a row. How about Samara, who can spend a little bit of time with people watching, two weary veterans sharing a laugh in a moment of peace. Then there's harder moments like Koliot, Thane's son, who will ask us to hold a memorial for his father in the apartment where those who knew him well will speak of the man. It often went unappreciated by me, but what it must have been like to hear Koliot hear the best of his father, when he probably only knew much of the worst. The last one is for Mass Effect fans all around the world, as Shepard, with a spacer background, will get the chance to call his mom, a moment many of us can appreciate.
Hi, Mom.
Oh, honey. Oh, it's so good to hear your voice.
This is a surprise. It's been a long time.
It has. I just felt I needed to... I think about you every day. I try not to worry. The other day, I was remembering the bedtime stories we used to make up. You had your own ship and crew. The stories were always filled with adventure and danger.
Oh, yeah. Haven't thought about that in a while.
Me neither. Oh, you'd always swoop in to punish the bad guys to save the day. So, there you are. Even when you were little, you dreamed of the life you have.
Is that the reason you wanted me to call?
No. I just want you to know that I am proud of you, son. So proud.
Thanks, Mom.
I have to go.
I know.
Be safe. Please. Goodbye, sweetheart.
Even the moments that will pull our heartstrings will be the ones leaving you feeling good on the inside when they're over. Then there's the goofy stuff. Javik, the last living Prothean, being dragged onto the set of a B-movie, and Shepard getting into a dick measuring contest with himself in Hanar form.
This one is the hero of the Citadel. I'll handle it.
This one insists.
This one doesn't care.
This one wishes he was still frozen in the refrigerator.
Or Zaid, one of the galaxy's most feared mercenaries, the founder of the Blue Suns, the man who couldn't be killed, driven to the brink of madness by a claw game. Last is one of my absolute favorites in gaming as a whole, as you'll be set to meet Samantha Trainer, who turns out to be competing in some strategy game tournament before it turns into a Hong Kong action movie when her rival shows up at the tables.
Oh, don't worry. You'll be free to join your friend in 20 moves or fewer. To Sousa. Trainer, would you like to just give me your frigates now? I always take them sooner or later.
Polgara to Sousa. She's knocked me out of 4 tournaments.
Specialist?
Commander?
Kick her ass.
Roger that. Damn it. Ah!
So much for your frigate. Neural feedback. It disincentivizes sacrificing pieces casually. A few more centuries, Trainer, and you might be a challenge. You must not have that much time to practice now, living on that warship. My people have more respect for the great thinkers. I'm able to live quite comfortably teaching Asari maidens tactics and strategy through this game.
I'd expect the great thinkers to be helping with the Asari war effort. I mean, Earth was taken by surprise, but Thesia? You had all the warning in the world, and the Reapers just rolled in.
Excuse me, I'm trying to play.
You're trash-talking. That's another strategy that doesn't work on the Reapers. It didn't work on the Rachni either, or the Krogan. Have the Asari ever won a war?
The Asari have a culture that was exploring space while you were using stone-tipped spears.
I think you're supposed to hit the button there when your turn is done.
I'm sorry, T'Souza. This might sting a bit. Ah! Thanks, Commander. And I apologize again for missing lunch.
All for a good cause, Trainer. Carry on.
Do you remember the Pinnacle Station DLC in Mass Effect 1, which was famous for being one of the worst DLCs of all time? Well, imagine if it was good. If that's something that sounds appealing to you, it's time to take a trip to the Armax Arsenal Arena. A combat sim right here on the Silver Sun Strip, filled with the opportunity to sharpen your combat skills across different worlds, against different enemies, and alongside every living member of your team. It even comes with its own little quest lines, as you'll get fan mail from people asking you to complete specific challenges, and once you've mastered the sim, you can even take up the task of trying to survive it when the sim breaks and tries to kill you. The Silver Sun Strip has it all, letting you spend time with your crew, play with big boy toys, or gamble away your war chest. Everything a grizzled veteran could want. But for now, let's put all that to the side. It's time to throw one last party before it's time to save the galaxy. You get options for the party, and both of them are fun in their own ways. You can relax and set a chill vibe for the evening, or crank up the music and let everyone cut loose for once. Both parties have their charms, with memorable moments in each, as you make your way around from group to group, getting to be a part of the fun with your team. Standout moments in the quiet party include Javik being a bit overserved and feeling friendly.
Tattooed human, I would like to touch you.
I'm not nearly drunk enough for that.
You then, shuttle pilot. How about you?
Why's Javik getting all touchy-feely?
Hey, collector-looking asshole. Maybe go touch yourself.
That does not happen until the end of the party.
The devs reminding you that they know about the memes.
Shepard.
Grunt?
Shepard.
Rex?
Commander Shepard. Shepard, Shepard, Shepard.
Rex? Grunt?
Shepard. Shepard. Shepard?
Tally also being overserved.
Of course, the SR2 is much bigger, so they upgraded the ventilation system. More of
A couple of grizzled vets doing some free contracting.
All right, Garrus, I gotta know. What are you doing?
Nothing. Just, admiring the polish on this glass.
Good. Don't tell him. He won't understand.
Try me.
Oh, it's just... Well, one man's decorative glass wall fixture is another man's explosive glass wall fixture.
And also Grunt being a little bit odd, and honestly, I don't know if it's a bug or a feature.
When's the food gonna be ready?
Why are you green? The more upbeat party includes some light target practice in my fucking house, Grunt guarding the door, and my personal favorite, Edie and Trainer having a moment.
You are all terrible. Edie, I apologize for saying that I wanted to roll naked with your voice in satin sheets.
Oh, I was not offended. In fact, it was flattering.
Even the part where I wanted to grab your voice by the hair and nibble my way down its back.
I do not, in fact, remember you saying that, Samantha.
Oh, that wasn't out loud. Never mind.
Don't mind me. I'm just going to run a toxin treatment program, so I don't die.
The party will wind down as the crew gets together for a group photo before Shepard heads off to bed. In the morning, you'll head back to the ship and to the war as a team while one of my favorite tracks in any game ever plays. It serves both as a bittersweet moment as the team heads off to war if you play it right before the final mission, or as a heartfelt goodbye to the series if it's your last moments in the universe as it was for so many of us. BioWare is in the bar when it comes to DLC. That title is firmly in the grasp of CDPR, but man, in some ways the content they release after a game comes out goes on to exemplify their love for the games even more than the base title. These worlds are beautiful, feeling violent, chaotic, nerve-wracking, mysterious, grandiose, vibrant, and loving. 3 DLCs to mark an end to a game, a series, and for some, a lifelong passion. No one at BioWare knew where life would go after this was over, but they gave it their all so that decades later, people like me could look back with longing at a time gone by and tell you how good life used to be. It's amazing the things that can transport you back to another time altogether. Small things, like a particular smell, an old photograph, or a song can have you floating away into a memory. There was a lot of reused music in this game from previous titles with the intention of bringing us back to a feeling we had at a different time, and some will criticize that. But for me, the soundtrack is perfect. Every moment was accompanied by less of a sound and more of an emotion, one that filled your chest. You didn't hear the music in Mass Effect 3, you felt it. Right from the beginning, when we're ripped away from Earth in search of the help we need to save it, the weight of the moment will be felt through a song as the whole team comes together to bring a sound to the feeling, with Sam Hulick, Christopher Lennertz, Chris Velasco, and Sasha Dishkin giving us Leaving Earth. Much of the music in Mass Effect 3 is attempting to align with the multitude of emotions you're likely to be feeling in any given moment. A future for the Krogan exemplifies this as it manages to be sorrowful, hopeful, and unknowing all at the same time. defining a moment where all you can do is hope that you did the right thing. Then there's a moment where you can be sure of what you should feel, where even doing the right thing can have heartbreaking consequences. Few will have heard this song, but it's one of the most moving in the series as it accompanies a decision that will lose you not one friend, but two. The Reapers aren't your only enemy in this war, and when Cerberus launches a daring offensive against the galaxy, the music had to match, being frantic, suspenseful, and painful all at once. I said the second game was about finding out why the galaxy had to be saved, to build the connections you would need to risk it all, and it was. But in our final entry, in the moments before we do put it all on the line, it's good to remember what we're fighting for as you'll spend your last moments with the one you love most. The weight of the moment to come isn't lost on the track, but there's an underlying feeling of love in spite of the potential for the world to end, not because of it. At this point, we found our reasons to hope, we've done everything we can to prepare, and all that's left is to call on those who promised us aid and watch them report in, ready to try and save the galaxy. Seeing the fleets assemble gets me pumped up every time, and the song to go along with it couldn't have been better. The last minutes of the game are spent in agony, watching Shepard's life fade away as he tries desperately to make the right choice to save us all. As he sits alongside his mentor, he will receive one last assurance that he's on the right path. Shepard will make a choice that will determine the fate of the entire galaxy, and one way or another, ending the war with the Reapers. I will always view Citadel as the end of Mass Effect 3, and that's why its ending will always sit with me with a song so perfect I've listened to it ever since for all kinds of reasons. I listen to it when I'm struggling to remind me that I made it through my hardest moments. I listen to it when I'm happy to live in my happiest memories for a moment more. And I listen to it when I'm lost to remember that no matter what happens, there's always a way. In these final moments, the team will say farewell and into the inevitable. So it's time, once more into the breach with my dear friends. We will call Hackett to mobilize the Alliance and spend one more night with whoever you hold most dear to you. In the night, Shepard will have one final nightmare, once more hearing the voices of the lost, once more aware of the fiery crucible we will forge our future in, but for once the ending is different, for this is our time and Shepard is prepared for whatever hell awaits him. Our war starts in the Anadeus system as we launch an attack on the elusive man's base known as Cronos Station. Edie tells us that it would be best if she came along to help get through security, and I'm not going to disagree, although it is hard for Joker to see her go. Their love may not be normal, but it's certainly real. While the Alliance launches its attack on Cerberus, Shepard and his team will descend onto the Titan, landing in a shuttle bay that feels every bit as hectic as it should. It's chaos as Cerberus shambles to mount a defense, but as always, Shepard proves to be too much, so the aptly named Achilles Protocol is announced, which Edie tells us is a plan to vent the hangar. She's able to stop it. When we can't get to the doors open, we fall back to Plan B. The B is for blow shit up, as we launch a fucking fighter through the station. The defense Cerberus mounts is brutal, with tight corridors jam-packed with engineers setting up turrets and shields while the rest of the troops bombard us with rifle fire and grenades. It takes time, but the team will push deeper and deeper into the station, battering back the worst Cerberus has to offer. In between locked doors, Edie will be able to dig out some secrets for us to watch, like the process of rebuilding Shepard and building him a team that would convince him to work with Cerberus. There's also the creation of Edie herself, who it turns out was built off the rogue VI we destroyed on Luna back in the first game. We also find snippets of the bastard Kai Lang and the elusive man's slow descent into madness, getting implanted with cybernetics in a way that's all too familiar. From the confined spaces down below, facing a staunch defense, to the catwalks above, finding ourselves under attack from phantoms and snipers who will do incredible damage, it's clear we are facing the best Cerberus has to offer, but we will reach the end climbing the long staircase into a very familiar room. There's no time for remembrance, however, as we're here to find the Prothean VI that can lead us to the Catalyst. Naturally, before that, the elusive man will show up to tell us we're sitting in his seat, and the ideological battle between us will continue. He'll keep pushing for this idea that the Reapers can be tools used for us to control, and Shepard will keep hammering home the point that some enemies can only be destroyed. It's one of the few things that bothers me about the game. Shepard has been a peacemaker everywhere he's been, at least in my preferred playthrough, but he can't see any path besides the destruction of this ancient all-knowing race of machines. To be fair, they haven't given us much of a reason to believe otherwise. They showed up for a fight and showed no quarter, but it feels as though the game is pushing us to accepting another solution may be possible, and it feels strange that he ignores it. This isn't the elusive man's moment, however, it's ours, as we find the VI who reveals he was broken by Cerberus and gave them info on the Catalyst, but at least we'll be able to give it to us as well. It turns out the Catalyst is actually the Citadel. It makes sense when you think about it. For every civilization before ours, the Citadel became the means for their destruction, and it would have been the same for us, if not for the Protheans' last act of defiance. Now we know what we have to do, and there's no time to waste. But before you go, there's some unfinished business we need to attend to in the form of an assassin. Truth be told, this fight lacks the weight it should have, with the only thing great about it being able to shoot Kai Lang while Shepard calls him a little bitch. The battle is as hard or as easy as you make it. On Insanity, walking out in the open is a good way to get caught in a bad spot and overwhelmed, but it just feels like the best way to do it, although you probably should just stay in cover. We'll put the coward down, but the killing blow will come in the form of a QTE that honestly just feels right.
That was for Thane, you son of a bitch.
Cerberus has fallen, but they were just pawns of our true enemy, which means the battle is still in front of us and it's only going to get worse. The Reapers have secured control of the Citadel and moved it into position above Earth, making our plan even more desperate as we'll have to find a way to regain control of the station. Before that, though, it's time to see the results of our hard work manifested as Admiral Hackett will board the Normandy as the allies we've collected join together. He gives a pretty disappointing speech if we're being honest, but seeing this, all my efforts put on screen in one glorious moment, yeah, I love this. The space battle is everything I hoped it would be, and I love watching it every single time, but it's not the moment that moves me. It's this one. For those who don't know, this is our pilot Jeff Joker Moreau, who has a severe case of Frolic syndrome or brittle bone disease. The man can snap his ribs sneezing, but he's magic in the chair. The pain he goes through just to move at any given point is what makes this moment so touching.
Shepard! Good luck.
You too, Joker.
Our plan is this: head to the surface with as many troops as we can and make a mad dash for the beam that will allow us to get onto the Citadel, and then from the inside hopefully open the arms and allow the Crucible to dock. When the crew responsible for taking down an AA gun are shot out of the sky, Shepard and his team will volunteer to do it instead, getting us our first taste of fighting in the war-torn streets of London, and it couldn't be better. The weight of the moment is felt immediately as we get hammered while trying to fight an uphill battle, waging war for inches at a time. In the chaos, it won't be long until someone we care about gets hurt, as our shuttle pilot Cortez will be shot down trying to keep some harvesters off of us, and whether or not he lives is actually a reflection on your actions. If you cared enough to help him deal with the traumas of his past and put the memory of his dead partner to rest, he'll have the strength to pull through. But if you ignored him, it will be his end. With salvaged heavy weapons from the downed shuttle, we'll take out the AA gun before calling for evac from anyone who can help. But it'll be a desperate fight to survive while we wait for that help to arrive. Although it will come in the form of familiar faces. Admiral Anderson alongside Major Coates, who you may recognize as the sniper from the cinematic trailer. For many, the ground assault will begin the moment they land, but Shepard and his team will receive a moment to say their goodbyes and plan the final assault. This moment is given the proper weight it should. You've gotten to know these people over the course of hundreds of hours, if not more, and it's clear everyone knows it could be a one-way trip. Some people who we haven't known as long won't have the same amount of weight, like James. I like him, and from shuttle crashes to sparring matches, he's left an impression, but his chapter in our story is short. Caden is much the same, but for different reasons. His shallow personality in the first game and relative absence in both 2 and 3 mean that while we've known him since the start, our relationship doesn't run quite as deep. But with that being said, his voice actor is phenomenal in this moment.
That's youth for you. Guess we're old soldiers. Hey, Shepard?
Yeah. I guess we are.
We know the score. We know this is goodbye.
There's a communication specialist who will set us up with links to those who are on our team, but not at our side right now, fighting across the planet in their own small wars. We'll find all kinds of ways our team is handling the war. You'd think Jack would relish in a fight like this, and I think the one we met would have, but with kids to take care of and the chance at losing people she loves, you can hear the vulnerability on her voice as it's clear this war scares her shitless. Zaid is a guy who's been there, done that, but even he is shocked at the scale of the task set before him, even if he's not deterred. And then there's Samara, who has few words, but leaves a lasting impact with them.
Only your actions will be remembered. May you choose them well. Farewell.
It's inspiring to see the leaders of entire worlds here like Primarch Victus, a soldier through and through. But he's not the Turian I care about right now. Garrus has been as steadfast a friend as anyone could ever ask for, never doubting us, never wavering in his devotion to his people. He's the best friend a guy could have. There's just so much history between the two of them I haven't found the room to talk about, like blowing off some steam on the Citadel while they decide who the best shot in the galaxy is. Garrus being the only one will tell about the Solarian plot to sabotage the Genophage, and a reminder that we're not the only one on this ship making tough calls.
He said our fleets are being decimated, so I advised him to cease all offensive operations against the Reapers.
A full retreat?
The only way to save Palaven now is to hold our ships back for the Crucible. But if I'm wrong, then a lot of other Turian families won't be as lucky as mine.
And as always in our final moments, he knows just what to say.
James told me there's an old saying here on Earth. May you be in heaven half an hour before the devil knows you're dead. Not sure if Turian heaven is the same as yours, but if this thing goes sideways and we both end up there, meet me at the bar. I'm buying.
Shepard and Vicarian storming heaven. I guess there are worse ways this could end.
But maybe some other day. And Shepard, forgive the insubordination, but this old friend has an order for you. Go out there and give them hell. You were born to do this.
Liara will have one more gift for us before we go. Something special. Rex will share his gratitude for giving his people a chance, and for once Tali will be the one checking in on us, no longer the scared kid she was when we met, now a battle-hardened warrior who has been at our side the whole way that I'm damn grateful for. We impart a little more knowledge on EDI, who in turn reveals a little more humanity under that metal frame.
Are you afraid?
Our probability for success is greater than any other plan presented to date.
That's not what I asked. Are you afraid?
I do not understand the purpose of the question.
There's no room for doubt anymore, EDI. You understand what we have to do, or you don't.
I am clear on what we must accomplish, Shepard. The Reapers have destroyed thousands of civilizations. But they have never destroyed ours. Nor will they.
Yet through all of it, what surprised me was the inspiration I found in Javik's words.
There's not much left out there.
The future is still out there. It is something my people could never say. There will be a tomorrow.
Only if we win today.
No one else has ever made it this far.
You came a long way, Javik. Further than anyone else here.
And I look forward to fulfilling my mission. But you are now the avatar of this cycle. The exemplar of victory. Not just for humanity, or Turians, or Protheans, but for all life. Every soul that has ever existed is watching this moment.
Well, no pressure when you put it that way.
Do not waver. Victory is never won without difficult choices.
I know. I've had to make a lot of those.
There may be more. But I know you will see this through for all of us, no matter the cost.
This is it. This is the moment. We've said our goodbyes, made the plan, and given the speech. All that's left is to walk out there and face our enemy head first. The easy part, believe it or not, will be to cross no man's land. We'll fight everywhere in the city, through the streets, garages, apartments, alleys, and offices. If you can imagine in the city, we'll fight Reaper troops there. But then we'll get to the real problem, the Reaper destroyer defending the beam we need to get to. It will be a massive coordinated effort to get the missiles into position to fire upon it with thousands dying to buy us time. We'll get it linked up to EDI, who will try to cut through the jamming effect the beam provides, but even with all her skills, it simply isn't enough to get a missile on target at this range, meaning all we can do is hold our position desperately and wait for the Reaper to get closer in the hopes we can hit it with the last of our missiles. There have been plenty of brutal arenas in this game, but this will be the moment when the difficulty lives up to the name of insanity, as we'll be besieged from all sides as our flanks collapse while we're hit with the toughest enemies the Reapers can throw at us. There's room to move outside, but between the destroyer's laser and the enemy's constant advance, any attempt at finding cover will be fleeting. You can try to stay inside where you have a chance to bunker down, but the relentless pursuit of Banshees will paint you into a corner and kill you. It feels hopeless as it just seems to go on and on forever. The enemy's numbers never seem to lessen while our own supplies and health bar dwindles. It's a confounding feeling to find relief in the destroyer being right on top of us, meaning we can finally launch the missiles and end the battle. With the Reaper down, there's only one thing left to be done, and that's sprint for the conduit as our old friend Harbinger comes to greet us in person. Our crew will take a bad hit and we'll have to call on the Normandy to get them out of there. It's a painful moment, especially if you brought those closest to you along with us. Shepard knows who he is, though. He's the one who has to lead the charge, and so he will go. In his most desperate moment, Shepard will be brought to the verge of death, barely able to walk but still pressing forward against all odds. Clinging on to life so that others might live, Shepard will do what seems impossible, making it to the conduit and onto the Citadel. He's in bad shape when he arrives, but it turns out Anderson has also made it ahead of him, so Shepard will keep pushing forward through a horror show of dead bodies that litter the halls. After some very slow walking through a station, we'll catch up to Anderson, but there's a complication as an old problem resurfaces. This moment annoyed me for years, as you'll be dragged through yet another battle of the minds with the elusive man who is clearly too far gone, yet another slave to the Reapers. It seemed to me for so long there was no way to get through to him, making it a pointless endeavor, but I just didn't know how long it takes to win this argument. You see, the only way to find success in this conversation starts in this one. Whatever choice you make right here will determine what chance you have to make this play out the way you want. You see, if you follow the same path of logic every time you speak to the elusive man over the course of the game on Mars, Thesia, and Cronos, Then and only then can you get through to him. With a Paragon path, you can shine a light on the error of his ways and get him to take the same path Saren did, or with a Renegade path, you can do it yourself. With him dead, you can open the arms of the station for the Crucible to dock before sitting down with your mentor and enjoying the view, finally taking a well-earned rest. Anderson won't make it, but he'll share some last words of comfort with Shepard before the old warrior finally lays down his sword.
You did good, son. You did good. I'm proud of you.
Thank you, sir. Anderson?
But something's wrong. The Crucible docks, but nothing happens, and yet again more is asked from Shepard, but it may be more than he has to give as he passes out from his injuries before being lifted into the light. But it's not an angel that comes for him. The intelligence that started it all does. He reveals that the catalyst isn't the Citadel, but himself. In this conversation, we will learn the truth behind the Reapers, some of which we already know from Leviathan, and some things that we didn't know. The catalyst will explain that the cycle exists as part of his core directive to create peace. However, what we will learn here is that the Reapers didn't simply destroy, they harvest the civilizations they descend upon. With each cycle, they gain more and more knowledge, distilling nations down to code so the intelligence may learn more. Each Reaper is a symbol of a race that has been harvested, putting into perspective how long this has been going on. Something I want to touch on in just a minute. The Catalyst will inform us we have come farther than anyone ever before, and we have the opportunity to be the first to stop the cycle. We'll be presented with 3 choices, 3 ways to end this war once and forever. The first is destruction, channeling the power to destroy all synthetics and even technology we rely on to keep us alive. Although he says the survivors should have no problem rebuilding after, but that our children will build new synthetics and the cycle will begin again. So what about another path? What about control? It turns out that while the Elusive Man never could have done it, Shepard can take control of the Reapers. By giving up his life, his mind will live on, moving the universe to his will, in effect becoming another catalyst. Then there's the last option, synthesis. The opportunity to combine synthetic and organics into one new race. It's clear this is the way he wants us to go, openly saying it is the ideal solution, explaining that while he's tried to force it before and it failed, with Shepard, it is now possible. So this is it, the moment that angered so many, and in ways I understand. You see, when I first played the game, I loved this ending because, first of all, only people with very high war assets could even get synthesis as an option, making it feel like a reward for doing the right things. It made it feel earned. And truth be told, I just like a happy ending. I like knowing that I did the right thing in the end. I'm going to defend this ending, but before I do, let me tell you why it sucks. To do so, I have to spoil the endings of Cyberpunk, at least to a small degree, because that's the game that showed me what endings should be. In Cyberpunk, you simply can't have it all. The only way to keep your friends from dying in your defense is to follow an evil path, losing your soul in the process. On the other hand, it's possible to take a better path, but people, good people, will die to save your life, which at most can only last a few more months, and you'll have to live with the weight of that on your shoulders. You can go a different way and choose to spend your last days becoming a Night City legend, but it will come at the cost of those you hold dear. There's more to these endings, and I've left some out, but the point is, the choice is hard because you can't have it all. No matter what you do, V will lose something, and you just get to decide what that is. Here's my argument for what we have here, though. I've argued now for 3 videos that the magic of Mass Effect is that there quite often is a right answer. Their strength being in showing you the way and hoping you enjoy the journey. If you've played this game like I, and statistically many others did, everything you've done has been leading up to this moment. Shepard has brokered impossible peace throughout the galaxy, uniting it as one, so of course it makes sense for him to do it one more time. Of course, the right path is a lasting peace that will allow us to move on with our lives in search of new problems, rather than reliving those of the ones who came before us. The only real problem is that synthesis is just too clear of an option. Why not start with the destruction to see what I mean? When the Catalyst says all synthetics, he means it. The Reapers and the Intelligence will both be gone, but so will EDI and so will the Geth. When we meet EDI, she was processing power with the voice, but now with our influence along with Joker's, she has become so much more. Finding her own form of humanity, even freely rejecting the ideals that convinced Saren to ally himself with the Reapers.
Are you saying submission is preferable to extinction?
My primary function is to preserve and defend the... No, I disagree. Shepard, I am going to modify my self-preservation code now.
Why?
Because the Reapers are repulsive. They are devoted to nothing but self-preservation. I am different. When I think of Jeff, I think of the person that put his life in peril and freed me from a state of servitude. I would risk non-functionality for him. And my core programming should reflect that.
Sounds like you found a little humanity, Edie. Is it worth defending?
To the death.
Welcome to the crew, Edie.
And then there's the Geth. Is it fair to give them life, true independence, then wipe them out in the name of our own survival? I don't think so. To kill the Geth in my eyes would be just as bad as killing any organic race, and for what? So that in 100 years or 1,000 there will be more wars fought with new synthetic beings? And on that note, I have to question the fallout of destroying the Reapers themselves. We know that each Reaper represents the memory of a civilization that has come before. What are the ramifications of wiping out all of galactic history in one fell swoop? So what even is the destroy option? We trade millions of lives just to start over and hope no one screws it up again? The only positive that comes out of the destruction ending is it's the only one where Shepard can survive the blast, but again, I say for what? So that his children may fight the same wars? I don't think so. With that, we look to the option to control the Reapers, to give up his physical form and become the invisible puppet in the sky moving the pieces around the board. A god, if you will. Just as we saw the red wave rip across the galaxy, destroying everything in its path, we will now see a blue beam do just the same, spreading Shepard's consciousness across the galaxy, forcing the Reapers to withdraw and ending the war. The effects are much the same. Relays destroyed, the battle concluded, but at least this time it's with far fewer casualties. But now how does the universe cope with having a mere human pulling the strings? How do we know Shepard won't spend a couple thousand years watching the wars across the galaxy and decide that maybe the Reapers were the right solution? What will time do to his mind? Man, it looks so plausible on paper, but in reality it leaves so many terrifying questions for the universe. Just listen to his monologue, hear the lack of humanity in his voice.
Eternal. Infinite. Immortal.
The man I was used these words. But only now do I truly understand them. And only now do I understand the full extent of his sacrifice. Through his death, I was created. Through my birth, his thoughts are freed. They guide me now. Give me reason, direction.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions, and I fear this ending may have laid the first brick. So what if you don't want to choose? Well, they considered that actually, and if you shoot the catalyst, it will play this cutscene as he will leave to continue the cycle and try again in search of another who can do what Shepard would not. Liara's beacons will be left behind in the hopes of warning those who come next. It's not a very in-depth ending, but it's nice that it's there, I suppose. To destroy would be to start again, to control would unleash a new hell on us all, which means all that's left truly is synthesis. It was always the best answer, and to me, that's all that really matters. Shepard will give us all that's left of him, adding his own energy to the beam in order to create something new, the one true chance at lasting peace. It will happen in all the endings, but there's something about Joker's refusal to leave Shepard behind that chokes me up every time. Whereas Admiral Hackett will do the narration for the Destroy ending, and Shepard will do it for Control, it will be Edie that walks us out for Synthesis, the perfect beacon for the new hope that we have created. Synthesis just feels right, which in a story about choice is wrong. But if I'm honest, I'm just going to admit to wearing my rose-tinted glasses here and tell you that I don't care. I think sometimes it's okay to have a happy ending, and I'm glad we got one here. It would be really nice to wrap it up right here, but then we get this weird end scene where it's revealed this was all a grandfather telling stories to his grandson, and fun fact, I just learned the person that voiced the grandfather was fucking Buzz Aldrin. So that's weird. This scene has been up to plenty of interpretation, but I'm willing to give you mine. The story the Stargazer, as he's known, is telling is true. Synthesis went on to create peace in the galaxy so that whenever this is in the future, the Normandy crew in the battle to save us all have become legends, probably ones too hard to believe. I like to think this means you won. Through synthesis, you created a better future. I'm willing to acknowledge that the opinions I've shared with you today are full of flaws, the result of loving this game a little too much and being blind to its failures, but I hope you can understand that I do this not to argue that this game is some masterpiece, or that you're wrong for disliking it, simply that there's a great game in here to be seen if you allow it to be. That's what I want to get across. It's like loving a bad movie, the way I love Speed, and so many people in the world loved Endgame. Being objectively bad doesn't matter as long as it makes you happy, and that's what I love about games. Your happiness is all that matters. All I want to do is give you a reason to love this game the way that I do, and maybe to inspire you to shout from the rooftops about the things that you love. It's easy to hate loudly and with purpose, but it's important you love with a full heart as well and never let anyone take away from you what you love. God, is that really it? Have I really reached the end of Mass Effect 3? I have to be honest, this project has felt endless in ways that nothing else has on this channel. Well, maybe the Outer Worlds, but that was a whole other issue. This series in particular has deep meaning to me in ways that I can't fully explain. Right place, right time type of thing, I suppose. I feel like I've learned so much over the course of this project, and I just want to say I appreciate anyone who waited around for it to be finished. Next up will be Kingdom Come Deliverance. I had a Christmas video planned, but considering I'm recording this in January, I don't think I'm going to get to it. I have a backlog to get through, but if you have a game that you love that everyone else seems to hate, please tell me about it, because I want to play it. I want to talk about it. Also, I think I'll be doing a Patreon exclusive video about my favorite conversations with Mass Effect 3, because I just really couldn't fit it into this video, and I don't think it would be a good independent thing to upload for the channel, but I would like to make it regardless for anyone who wants to see it. Man, I don't really know what else to say, so I guess it's time to say goodbye. Until next time, this is Purple signing off. Have a wonderful night, and always remember to smile. Thanks, guys.